and ever-changing news, and computer terminology, Commodore news. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you.
Hello and welcome to episode 69 of Zapped to the Past. My
Titter.
name is... What? Yeah.
Titter,
My name is...
you child.
I've been waiting for this one. My name is Adrian Mills, and I'm joined as ever by Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. We're using the magazine Zap 64 as a monthly guide for the games to focus on, but we are in no way affiliated with Zap 64 itself. This week, we're going to be starting our look at December 1987 and the first batch of games reviewed in issue 32 of Zap 64, along with what was also going on in UK music that month. So, Graham, what have we got going on this week?
In this weird old market town centre, complete with a CB and amateur radio shop, 15 variants of coffee, cafe and tea room, an off-licence convenience store newsagent fruit seller hybrid, aquatic bird and reptile centre, and a second-hand curios and Reiki health store of an episode. We grab our keys and dive into our fastest roadsters and its rumble seats in the decidedly bouncy Buggy Boy, polish our vibranium star shield to full lustre, and head into battle with the deadly Dr. Megaloman in the pokey Captain America, and climb into our best 8-bit blue spandex mankini, backcomb our grey hair and shout, "Ho!" with Thundercats. We also grab a fedora and take to the slave mines of the Tuggy on a futile quest for 8-bit fortune and glory in the utterly abysmal Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, head to Jellystone Park on a boring boo-boo hunt in the pedestrian Yogi Bear, and take on the mighty annoying wasp army of Cobra while simultaneously repairing potholes in the annoying Action Force. If that cosy trip down the market didn't yield enough crazy-priced garlic stuffed olives and feta cheese, and you're now thinking that your name glue-gunned onto some timber would be a great door ornament, we slide into our best golden underpants and head into the blocky city, looking to throw some grannies and headbutt some gorillas in the decidedly odd street hassle, engineer our best triple word and double letter word scores in the solo quiet confines of Computer Scrabble Deluxe, and gatecrash a swarthy 80s sophisto party looking to fart on the appetizers and take a dump in the bath in the crappy How to Be a Complete Bastard. We also take to the tiny track race and zoom around in miniature with none of the arcade fun in Super Sprint, take ourselves to the dull digital world of yet another 8-bit boring pinball game with Microball, before finally settling in on a double treat. Firstly, we explore the crazy shoot-'em-up world of our very own 80s C64 gaming opus, Heli Squad, before taking a deep dive into the very tool he used to create it, the mighty shoot-'em-up construction kit. There's so much licensed crapola in this episode. This is like wiping your ass with sandpaper. It'll feel clean, but with a niggling sensation of fiery chafage. Nasty.
An interesting bunch. Interesting. Some ups, some downs, and some creamy middles, which is always good to see. Before we get into anything, though, the cover. I have remembered. The cover. We must talk about the cover. Do you like this cover?
Kind of. It's very kinetic again.
Again, yeah, it's very similar to the California Games one in tone, isn't it?
Yeah. It's very, and it is really well drawn, I suppose. And it's obviously Bangkok Nights, isn't it? So the main thing. I like the way it's shattering the Commodore software thing with his foot, which is quite cool. So it's got a bit of kineticism. It's also got Judge Death on this cover, hasn't it? Yes.
Yeah, no Thundercats here. We've got a 16-page Judge Death comic strip.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you must have read it, of course, but did you read it for the podcast? Yeah, same. I was actually quite enthralled by it. It's very good.
It is. It's really good. It's always
interesting. It's odd that it was like almost a 16-page advert for the Judge Anderson game, because there's adverts for that, and then there's that, and then there's a picture of Judge Anderson, and it's like, okay, we get the idea of you're releasing a Judge Anderson game.
Well, marketing is marketing,
But it did make me want to read the rest of the because it is pretty cool, that particular comic. So I was very interested in that. It's good.
Yeah, the 4 Dark Judges are coming. They're coming. They are
coming back, essentially.
Yeah. So this cover, it's a young man kicking from Bangkok Nights, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. The headline underneath at the bottom there, "Predator Exposed," made me laugh. In the modern context, that could be anything. I mean, we're
Jean-Claude
just
Van Damme.
we're just assuming that that's something to do with the film Predator. That could just be some predators exposed himself. Who knows what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. Operation U-Tree. Who knows?
But it made me think, because have we not looked at the film Predator during our travels?
No, it's not out yet.
I thought I seem to remember us talking about the film Predator.
Maybe we have. Maybe we haven't.
The film Predator isn't out till January 1988 in the UK.
What, the film?
Yeah.
Well, then we won't have talked about it yet.
Well, I remember us talking about Billy on the bridge, and I
To be fair, that's
talking about Predator.
It's probably come up in just our random asides. We may well have done it. I honestly can't remember. We've talked about so many bloody films and stuff.
Well, it's coming up anyway. There's actually an interview with Arnold Schwarzenegger in this episode of Zapped, which is kind of odd.
Yeah, that is a bit weird, isn't it? Yeah. There's also, which we have to discuss at some point, there's some 16-bit games covered in this, isn't there?
There is. There's a really silly Amiga versus Atari ST debate in that, where they speak to game developers about what are you finding are the key differences. This Andrew Braybrook gives his thoughts on the Amiga, going, it's way better than the ST. There's a couple of others in there going, yeah, it's way better than the Atari ST. And then another couple of programmers going, yeah, it's way better than the Atari ST. I get the impression that the Atari ST didn't have a lot to offer in games. Aside from its MIDI compatibility, there was not a lot there. But it was a lot cheaper.
Was it? I can't remember.
Oh, yeah. That's 299 quid at this point, whereas the Amiga was 500.
Whew.
It might be more, actually.
£1 per mega RAM, whatever it was.
Yeah, but they made a point saying, the games on the Amiga, Amiga's clearly made for people that make games. It does all of this amazing stuff. The Atari ST's got so many problems for making games. It's stupid. It can't even scroll properly.
Not even compatible with my system.
Exactly.
No. So, yeah. So it also predicts 3 gold medals in this episode as well, this issue.
It does. There are 3 gold medals, aren't there?
And also, and we'll get to it next episode, but Maniac Mansion's arrived. Interesting.
It has.
See how that turns out. But yeah, 3 gold medals, Judge Death, Kicking, Predator exposing themselves. Short shorts on the old Bangkok Nights there. We're almost seeing his Bangkok jewels there. His Bangkok shite.
Exactly, yeah. Thank God it's darkened. Thank God, because it's obviously it's massively shaded in that area. There's
heavy shadowing of the groinal area.
Usual explosions of fire around the person, which seems to happen a lot in Zap. He's obviously, there's an explosion going off behind him, but you know what? It's all good. It's all good. I quite like the cover. It's all right. It's one of the better ones we've seen recently. And more importantly, it's about a game in the issue. It is, yeah.
So I know that's a bit of a bugbear of mine, and you probably listen to this going, "Oh, shut up about that." But
it's important.
There's many games where they're still not getting their dues. Anyway, there we go. That's the cover. So that's that. I don't think we've got much more to say about that. Should we get into the games?
I think we should.
All right. So let's get into our first game. It's a gold medal. It's by Elite. It's Buggy Boy. It got 97%. Graham, tell us all about Buggy Boy.
So this is an official conversion by Elite of the 1985 Tatsumi arcade, made relatively famous for its triple screen display, which was quite unique at the time, from what I can gather. The C64 is coded by Dave Thomas, graphics by Bob Thomas, musician Dave Thomas, a lot of Thomases in there. And obviously this is the conversion of an arcade. The arcade used actually pretty limiting hardware for its time, but it is 1985, so it's got 2 basically 486 CPUs running at 5 megahertz. It's got a Z80 doing the sound, and then it's also got a couple of sound chips, the old classic AY8910. So it was a reasonably competently bolted together arcade at the time with a bit of power under the hood. All of that is to create a fast 3D scrolling racing landscape through which you control a dune bug or buggy in a series of races. The object of the game is to drive around one of 5 courses in the shortest time possible, collecting special items to earn points. Each course is also littered with target objects to collect, with points awarded for driving through gates and collecting coloured flags. Time flags are also present, each of which adds 2 seconds to the time limit. Not a lot, is it, in terms of a time bonus, that, I thought, anyway. You also get additional points if you launch your buggy into the air, and which is something that's also useful for clearing track-based obstacles. This is done by driving over logs and tree stumps and things that are in the pathway of your vehicle while you travel at speed, which flings you high into the sky. Extra points are also rewarded for putting the buggy on 2 wheels, which is achieved by clicking them onto these little rock things. On some of the tracks, it's also possible to drive the buggy up slanted embankments, which in the arcade version look like slanted embankments, but in the C64 version look like giant slabs of grey, which appear at the side, but you do go up the sides and up the embankments, which helps you avoid track-based obstacles. There are 5 courses here: off-road, north, south, east, and west. In the arcade, they have slightly different names, so that's North Monte Carlo, South Southern Cross, East Safari, and West Paris Dakar. I don't have those names in the C64 version. I'm guessing characters are limited, but there's a lot crammed into this. So off-road is a lap-based circuit, takes 5 laps to complete, while north, south, east, and west are courses with timed checkpoints and point-to-point tracks. Your view is and the game is of the buggy is your view. Of the buggy is from behind and slightly elevated, like the arcade, but not quite as close as the arcade. The arcade's a bit closer in. You control the buggy with the joystick, pushing up to speed up. Your button changes your gear from low to high to low, and it's down to slow down, and obviously left and right. Well, don't need me to explain the nuances of directional controls. You need to navigate the courses as the tracks are bendy and full of obstacles, which will slow you down. And of course, time is of the essence here. The more chances are, if you hit too many of these obstacles, or you run into the ground, or you otherwise start slowed down too often, you are going to run out of time, and it's game over. So that's really kind of all there is to this. There isn't a lot of multiplayer action in this. It is very much a one-player game, which I think is reflective of the arcade, because I think the arcade was similar. I don't remember seeing big two-player or multiplayer options in the arcade. It certainly is a one-player game, even if there aren't multiple players. There certainly aren't in the C64 version anyway.
No, I think it was one player in the arcade as well.
Yeah, and I didn't spend a lot of time looking at the arcade, but I also noticed there wasn't a lot of other players, CPU players in the arcade either, the occasional one or two, a bit like in the C64 version. Although I'd hope they'd have more intelligence, but I'll look at that in a minute. I think the graphics here, title screen and the in-game graphics are actually reasonable versions of the arcade. They're obviously not going to be as well defined, but they do move fast, and the controls of the buggy feel responsive. Indeed, you can actually feel like you're progressing in this game, so you can feel like you're getting a bit better, and that you can challenge the tracks. You don't get flung off to the left and the right so readily when you speed up in this game. You do feel like you're in a bit more control of the buggy, and it feels a bit more grounded. So it all moves pretty well. The engine sounds might very well do your head in over time, because it is kind of like usual C64 whine. And there is actually more annoying than that is the game collecting flag sounds, which definitely will do your head in after a short amount of time with the diddly-ling, 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 that sounds. There isn't much in the way of other sounds here, but there is a lot crammed into the game, so you can almost forgive that. There is a tune of a sort at the start. And when you start the game. So there's a few peripheral tunes, nothing major. So all the levels of the arcade are here, and there is most of the logic of the arcade. It's certainly one of the better games of this type, but my argument here is I don't know that this is gold medal material, and we'll sort of look at a little bit as to why. You don't race against other players in this, apart from, because it is a single-player game, but there are the occasional places where a second alternative CPU type player exists, but in my experience of them in the C64 game, they just kind of drove themselves into the water on the side of the track at every given opportunity. They didn't really present a challenge to me as the racer. And I suppose the idea is that they're meant to sort of throw you in terms of timing. They're not meant to really be a competitor. But that's a missing element, I think, for this, because it would have been a nice challenge to have at least one other or two other players that you were racing against. They do cram a lot into 64K, which is incredible that they managed to cram most of this in, or all of it in. But there are things they could have done to elevate it, including that extra player. And I think it's fun for a while. And it's certainly one of the better and stronger racing games of this type. But I couldn't help feeling that the races, while they were fun, just needed more about them. After a while, once you sort of get to grips with the way it controls and the way you navigate, and some of the tracks do split into two. So obviously there's a little bit of memory about where things are and sort of memorizing where some of the timing things are. But once you get past all of that, it does feel like there's just not much more to go at, and it doesn't really seem to get... It hits like a peak of difficulty, and then it never gets any harder than that difficulty, or at least it never seemed to for me. And whether that means I'm getting better at it, I don't know. I did try and experience all of the races, even with the ones with the sort of clearly drunk other drivers and things like that just drove into the water. And my prevailing thought of this is probably fun while it might last. But without that two-player option, without the interaction with something else, without the ability to really upgrade your vehicle or do any of those things, you are going to tire, I think, of those 5 tracks eventually. I mean, they are challenging, don't get me wrong, in that kind of outrun tradition of challenging. And you do want to progress through them. But I think once you start to sort of figure out the navigational challenges of each track, and you start to figure out the difficulty of them, and there's no real crazy tight bends or sharp curves or anything like that on the track. There's nothing really that, in the outrun tradition where there's suddenly quite violent changes of direction on the track in some instances, and you really have to sort of think about slowing down and navigating. They didn't really get a lot of that in this. And so I think they've perhaps the game, and I don't know if this is a legacy from the arcade, but it just felt like once you got to grips with everything and you understood how the sort of jumping up and where those things maps were, that this didn't offer you a lot more than that. Now, at full price, okay. is it enough for a gold medal though? It's got 97% gold medal. And I get that it's a good conversion. I just didn't get the whole feeling that this was just something that deserved that kind of praise. I don't know. On reflection, looking back, I know a lot of people like Buggy Boy, and it is. But you know what? There's a little bit of reverie, I think, in terms of, because there's not a great deal challenging it. Is this better than Pit Stop 2? Pit Stop 2 is a bit of my benchmark for racing games on the C64 for obvious reasons. Does this offer more than Pit Stop 2? Is it better than Pit Stop 2? No. So I don't know. Does it deserve this gold medal and praise? And maybe at this time they just needed a good gold medal arcade conversion, but I don't know. It's a bit of a travesty. It feels a bit like Ghosts and Goblins, kind of, the reverie that was surrounding that. And that was, but at least that was incomplete. This is at least complete, but I think it's missing something for me. And on replay, I don't know. I quite enjoyed my time with it, I have to say, but it wasn't a long amount of time I went on it. But what about you?
Yeah, it's a faithful conversion of a so-so arcade. I think that's its main problem. That's for me anyway.
Yeah.
The original arcade is probably would never be to me a gold medal, just because it's all right. It's all, again, that triple screen thing. Once you squash it down a bit, it's all right. But it's it's a faithful conversion, and unlike the god awful Enduro Racer, this does manage to capture the look and feel of the arcade game pretty well. And as you've noted, it's all here to play. It's got all the courses, all the sections seem to be recreated faithfully, and it's all in one load, which is technically pretty impressive. It's smooth, it's pretty fast, and it's technically very, I said, it's very impressive fitting all the arcade, but some of the small presentation parts, like the 3, 2, 1, like the fingers that come out of the screen here, into 64K, that is impressive. The feeling of controlling the buggy left and right across the track is quite good as well. It whips about from side to side quite responsively. There's a lot to like there. There's a good sense of inertia to it as well, and it looks and feels the part. As you have rightly noted, though, it is a bit easy. And this comes from the fact, in my opinion, it's not a racing game. It's an obstacle course game, because you don't have to steer around corners. I don't know whether I turned to me on, but your corners you just continue straight. So there's no steering around a corner. What this entails is that it becomes very simple to navigate your way through quite a lot of the courses, especially when you also realise you don't even have to hold up once you hit top speed as well. It just becomes a left and right affair to go through the time gates and avoid the rocks and other stuff. Even the water and tunnel sections offer no real challenge, as they may be curved. The track may be curved inside them, but you don't have to do anything to navigate them in any meaningful way. So unlike all other races, which have, there's that force, centrifugal force. As you go around a corner at speed, you are pushed out towards the edge, by whatever that force is, gravity, physics, whatever it is, pushes you out. And this doesn't have that, which is kind of weird. It's like an auto racer. It's like a modern day, Sonic Racers or something like that. It's more like one of those. So it all makes it feel a bit weightless. So I actually tried the arcade game on MAME. I got it on MAME and I had a go. I thought, well, I'll have a go. And it's a bit tricky because it's analog stick trying to control the thingy. But when you leave it to go around a corner, it does drift you out to the outside. So there is that in the arcade. So I don't know why they've not put that in here. It feels like an oversight.
Difficult to implement.
Well, every other racing game does it. Pit Stop 2 does it. Super Cycle does it. Even Speed Kings does it. Even Talladega, Richard Petty's Talladega did it.
They do a variant of it, but I think it's, perhaps they just wanted to make it easy.
I don't know. It's an oversight, but it's what changes the fundamental thing of this game. That said, though, it is an impressive conversion. I suppose if you approach this as a high-score attack game, then the lack of force on the corners may not bother you too much. But it's not a racing game, so it's not going to scratch that racing game itch. It didn't for me.
You don't really race anything apart from
racing,
the clock.
And it's more like it's like it's forerunner to things like Sega Rally and things like that, I guess, where you just it's track, it's a rally game, so you're going through stages. Apart from that one of them is obviously going around a lap. The other one is all stage based, isn't it, like a rally race? So I don't know. I honestly don't know what to make of this one. I know it is really well liked, isn't it? It gets high in all the sort of C64 charts,
everyone raves
games,
about
and everything.
it.
Got 67, 97%.
It's not terrible by any, no one would say it's terrible.
But I don't think the original game is that great. That's the problem.
It's like Paperboy, not great arcade.
Yeah. And so, whilst this is technically very good, whilst this is technically a really good conversion and impressive that it's all in there, I think the problems lie pre-book, in the arcade with the actual source material. So, but then the weird choice to not have you going around corners properly, that's just odd. It's just an odd choice. I thought it was broken at first, but.
Well, the language in the Zap review of this was, it was beyond evangelical, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's very effusive, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, they were, this is the greatest 3D visual of a racing game ever, was I think one of the comments or something like that. I'm paraphrasing a bit, but and I read it and I thought, I don't think so. I'm sorry, but I don't think so. Is this my benchmark is Pit Stop 2, as I said, and it's nowhere near as good as that.
No, it's
nowhere
not.
Near.
It's really not. It's not as good as Super Cycle, in my opinion.
No, actually, I don't like that particularly. But you're right; it's not nowhere near as good as that.
No, but that's a that's a thingy based one, isn't it? A sort of track based one where you
absolutely
stage based thing. I don't know, a weird one, Buggy Boy, but yeah, I don't really know what to say about it because it just feels it's technically good, but
the thing I would say is it is technically well put together. Okay, I get all that. Gold medal? No, it's not.
Not for me.
No, it's not. If IK Plus is not worthy of a gold medal, and yet that is pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and it adds a lot more to the original game. What is this? What is so great about this that makes it a gold medal? And I don't get it. I don't see what it is.
Up against the other 2 gold medals we've got in this issue, and other games we've got.
No way. No way.
No, not a cat and else chance.
No chance in heck.
No. There we go. Buggy Boy. Oh, well, there you go. That's what we think. Well. You can take that to the bank.
You can. I mean, we're not saying it's rubbish, we haven't said that.
No, we haven't.
What we're saying is it was average to begin with.
Yes, that's very right.
So.
There you go. Buggy Boy. I'm sure that'll probably be better than our next one. This is all, by the way, this entire half of the podcast is all brought to you by licenses, conversions, and whatever else they can find.
It actually is, isn't it? Goodness,
I put these all together for that exact purpose.
Yeah, this is like war in a toy shop.
It is, yeah. So this is 80s conversion licenses and all kinds of stuff here going on. Let's move into our next one then, because that's Buggy Boy. And our next one is another full price one, because of course it is, because it's a license. They've got to get that money back somehow.
Squeeze.
Absolutely. And pre Marvel Studios, pre Disney buyout, we've got a version of Captain America. Oh god, what do we say about Captain America? I'll start off. This was from Go, wasn't it? Go?
Yes, it was, yeah.
I've never heard of them.
They've suddenly appeared. They seem to be doing a lot all of a sudden.
Release. I think it says in the review, we hope for better things. Well, There you go. Got 36% this. So this is from Go. This was coded by Stefan Ufnowski. It was produced by Taran, and it's got music by Anthony Lees.
Okay.
Weird. So, who knows? But really, this has got one of the this is one of the worst licenses we've looked at. I'm just going to put it out there right now. It's got with a stupid opening screen that would make V blush.
It's stupid.
The opening screen was just terrible. Anyway, oh, good Lord. This takes its cues from the Marvel comic character Captain America. I'm not going to go into the history of Captain America. Just go watch. He's been around for ages, and he's got he's got a star on his shield, and he throws it. It's made of what was it? Vibranium.
Is it adamantium or something?
No, it's vibranium. I know that. Adamantium is the thing. What's his face? Wolverine's got for his claws.
I don't follow the rules.
You need to know your EMs better than that.
Well, fair enough.
So the story of Captain America is basically he was a small puny guy in the I don't know the comics, by the way, so I'm just going by the films here. He was a small puny guy in the Second World War. He got injected with special serum. He became massive, and then he got frozen and whatever. He became Captain America, and that's it. Who cares? Because it really has very little to do with this game. There's a rich license history of Marvel Comics to have gone at that. You could have had loads of good things in this, but I don't know what went on. This game has very little connection to it all. This plot, such as it is, has Cap facing off against Dr. Megaloman. You ever heard of him?
I don't follow enough Marvel to even know, but it doesn't sound like one.
No. And he wants to be president of America, or else he will detonate an underground germ missile.
Okay, it all sounds a bit pieced together.
I haven't thought this through.
No.
Germs are underground anyway. There's lots of them.
Yes.
So when the Cap hears about this, he races to foil it by going through some kind of tube. I don't know. The plot to this game is ridiculously stupid. You've got an hour to sort out this ridiculous plot. So when the game boots up, it's got I'll tell you what it has got though. And it's got one of the things the C64 has on this, and I looked at the other versions, it has a better loading screen than any of the other versions. It's got a really good. We've looked at bad loading screens, but the loading screen to this is really good. It's a close-up of Cap's face, and he looks really menacing, looks really angry. But on the other versions, he looks really nice. It's worth going to. I'll try and find some pictures of it somewhere. But yeah, it's a really good loading screen, and it belies what's coming. It's like promises things that this game simply does not deliver. Even navigating once the game starts, you kind of on this weird. It's like the game starts. starting screen is also the title screen. So you've got a back view of the Cap's head and sort of it's like from close up, and there's his hand to the right, and you kind of at this console, and you've got some scrolling text on the screen. There's Dr. Megaloman in the window at the top, and you've got to sort of push this, grab hold of this knob essentially, and that starts the game. You move his hand, and it grabs this game, and then you've got 5 levels that you can choose from, or you can move it up and down. So you want to start on level 1 because level 5 is incredibly radioactive, and you'll die very quickly. Basically you progress through these 5 levels is how you progress through the game. I didn't get very far in it because it's stupid, so I don't know what the progression is beyond about the second screen. I guessed Zapped didn't either because that's all the images I could find of this game. So I don't think many people have made it very far. And I didn't think to go look for a YouTube video because I was so annoyed with the whole thing. So once you've chosen your screen, Cap, and you select it, you get this sort of view from the side. It's a single screen thing. And so you're trapped in this screen, and there's a glowing door off to the right, in the top right of the screen. On either side of the screen, 2 droids come down and start shooting at you. And obviously you're Captain America, so you've got your shield. So you can throw your shield at them. So that sounds all right. The problem is that the droids stop just above where your shield goes, which is really annoying.
Yep.
And they kind of move up and down. So you've only got 6 shields if they don't bounce back to you. And once you run out, you're trapped. At least that's what I found. I couldn't find a way of getting more shields. They just had to die and restart the game. You press F1, which restarts it. Or you just have to go to one of the more toxic levels and die. And then you restart it. I don't know at any point why anyone thought that was a good idea. Just have the shield come back to you infinitely and give you a chance to get on. Because you have to, if you do manage to knock out those 2 droids, then you can go through the door. There's no indication of this, though. The door doesn't stop like it's electricity effect going on it. You can just go up to it now and go through it. That's what I found. And then you go to the next screen, which is kind of like a really crap version of Smash TV. There's these 4 things on it, and you've got to run around and throw your shield at them and try and hit them without falling off the side of the the level that you're on, which I did. And then it puts you back at the beginning, and you've got to knock out the droids again. And at that point, I was done. I'd done this numerous times. I missed the droids. Like, this is stupid. I don't know. Also, as well, every time you die, the music restarts. There's an option to turn off the music if you press one of the buttons on this little control panel, and you can turn the music off because it's by Anthony Lee, so it starts off okay, but it gets annoying pretty quickly, and so you want to turn it off. But it's literally like they're just resetting the machine to the title screen, I think, when you die and you're just going back. It just turns the bloody music back on. So you have to get into the game, go through the little preamble, get into the game and turn it off. There's also a hilarious joke where it pretends to reset your machine or something, which repeats ad infinitum.
Stupid joke.
Oh, God. Just so much annoying crap in this game. The visuals, they're okay. I mean, like I said, the loading screen is really good. That sort of close-up on the panel is really nice. The cap looks okay. Captain America, the sprite is okay. But it seems so mishmash. Why are you fighting robots that float around in this some weird... I don't know. This doesn't feel like a Captain America story to me or anything like that. I think I can only assume this is some odd take, as I noted, on Smash TV, that's what the inspiration of this has come from somehow for the second screen. But I don't know about that first one. It's like they looked at V and went, yeah, hold my pint. I just know. I just wanted, after getting to the second screen a couple of times, dying quickly, falling off, like, no, I want no further part of this. It's so stupid. It's a waste of a license if ever I've seen one. I've noted here Captain America ass, but there's a line in Endgame where they go, that is America's ass. That is America's ass when he's looking at the thingy, and he's like, yeah, this is America's ass. Literally, that's what this game is. That's what I thought of this awful thing. 36%, way too generous. It's rubbish. What did you think?
Same. I mean, I liked the initial graphics that were on display, as you've said. There's some nice detail in those. An odd control mechanism on that first display, wasn't it? Where you sort of, you can grab and prod. Not things I expected ever to do with Captain America, really. And it's that weird back of his head view. So you're just looking at the back of Captain America's head with the ability to just savagely prod up buttons and grab things. I was like, okay, this isn't what I expected.
Hey, in episode 69, expect anything.
I mean, the game has a look, I guess. It does have that kind of, the blue colorization of Captain America's uniform. My main thought here was, I mean, aside from the modern context of Captain America, the currency of Captain America at that point in the UK, so in the 1987, must have. I mean, I don't imagine it had much currency with everybody. I mean, was it? It was never something that ever really went across my radar. I mean, I'd heard of Spider-Man, I'd heard of the Fantastic Four and some of the cartoon shows that had made their way to the UK, but Captain America was just not something that was going to really, I don't think, land particularly well at that time. It took, it took a lot of the most recent films to really bring it to the fore, and the more recent portrayals, even prior to that, I don't think it had much longevity here. So a game based on that character, well, all right, the game's going to have to be something special, because at least you might get away with it being a character in a game that you're not necessarily affiliated with the character, but the scenario of the game is exciting and you've got stuff to do, and no, you don't get any of that, do you? I stood on a platform throwing my disc. It looked like a crap version of Discs of Tron, which made no sense.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And none of the mini games are any fun, and they sort of got more graphically inept as they went on. And in the end, just like you, I thought, I've got no more time for this rubbish, and I'm not having any fun here. Captain America or no Captain America, this was just rubbish. Well, it was just rubbish. Graphically, quite well done. I think it's a shame. I think it's a shame that the graphics, and someone had gone to the extent of drawing those graphics, especially in that opening sequence, even though it is just prod and grab. But they've gone to the extent of drawing those in that kind of way. But it's always a bit of a cop-out. If you're going to draw a superhero from the back of his head, it's not as interesting as from the front. I'm just saying. There might have been a better way of doing that, but it wasn't very engaging for me. 36%, it's about right, what I'd expect. I wouldn't have paid full price for it, though. $9.99 for that. No thanks. No thanks. So,
no, it's really bad, isn't it? Really bad.
It's Captain Americac, unfortunately.
Captain Americas, Captain all of them. Anything you can stick on the end of it that just means rubbish.
Yeah.
Yeah, Captain America garbage. There you go. All bad. All bad. All right, there you go. Let's move on. Because I'm sure the next one is going to be better, where Graham, you can tell us all about the the further adventures of Tigra and Lion-O in, say, Dance Around in their relationship. This is Thundercats. Go on, tell us all about Thundercats.
This is Thundercats, and is it the Eye of Thundera or the Missing Eye of Thunder or the Lost Eye of Thunder? I can't remember. There's some subtitle to it. It doesn't matter. It's the Thundercats game. This is by Gargoyle Games, which is essentially Roy Carter and Greg Folis. That's also the people that are behind Faster Than Light as well, FTL. So it's all a bit of a mishmash. Okay. It is the same people, yeah. The graphics here are by Stuart Cox, and the music, of course, is by Rob Hubbard. We'll come to a bit of the story around all of this. But before we even get to that, let's look at the story of this marvellous game. Some of the Thundercats, Tigra, Panthro, and Wily Kit, have been kidnapped from Cat's Lair in some kind of fortress home invasion by the evil mole men, who are minions of Mumra the Ever-Living, or as I've called him, Mumra the Ever-Pissed Off. During the raid, they also stole the Eye of Thundera. They stole the eye. Don't steal the eye.
Because you can send them the eye.
Just in case you're unaware, the Eye of Thundera is the mystical gem embedded in the hilt of the Sword of Omens. It is the source of the Thundercats' power and is tied directly to their life force. It is traditionally passed to the current standing Lord of the Thundercats in this instance, and if you're not fully aware of all of the story of Thundercats, of which I am, and I won't bore you to death with it right now, but that's Lion-O. That person is Lion-O. So it's something, generally speaking, the Eye of Thundera, with all of that power and that sort of gravitas, that you do not want to lose sight of. Obviously, as the sole guardian of the Eye of Thundera, with that single responsibility to ensure it doesn't get stolen, Lion-O has somewhat shit himself and decided to infiltrate Mumra's impenetrable fortress, Plunder. Mumra's fortress is called Plunder. Okay.
Is it really called Plunder?
Called Plunder, yeah. Get back the Eye of Thundera and rescue his kidnapped friends. So, you must traverse the 14 left-to-right scrolling levels of Plunder, armed with your eyeless sword, on a Thundercat snatch and grab mission. All the while you will be attacked by angry mole men and their various evil colleagues who will kill you on contact. But luckily, Plunder is also strewn with supply boxes that give you such great things as extra lives, blaster weapons, and more swords. And as just a little aside, I don't get why they would keep a supply of swords in boxes hanging around, just in case. seems very, very... It just seems something you wouldn't do. Don't keep a handy supply of Thundercat usable swords in your secret fortress. So I'm guessing the disposable swords, which, by the way, isn't very carbon footprint friendly anyway. So anyway, you've got to make you through all these levels. If you make your way through level 3, you're going to find Tigra at the end there. So you've got to rescue your chums. If you get through level 8, there be Panthro. There he is. They kidnapped the most difficult Thundercats to kidnap as well. So these mole men must be pretty proficient kidnappers, because Panthro's a big dude.
He really is. Yeah, you don't mess with him.
These are actually, by the way, if you don't know what they are, these are all lords of the Thundercats, all of them. Lion-O was actually a child. They were all still adults, and then when they went into freeze before they landed at Third Earth, when Jaga froze them all for the journey, when they get there, they're still the same age that they were, but Lionel's chamber went wrong and he actually ages. So when they get there, even though he's got the mind of a child, he's got the body of a man. Something Tiger is very familiar with, I'm sure. Anyway, so on the penultimate screen, you're going to find Wily Cat just before Mum-Ra pops up to do battle to the death. If you defeat Mum-Ra, you get your eye back. And rescue your friends, then everyone can go back to Cat's Lair for a cup of Thundera tea and some of Chitara's lovely sponge cake. How nice is that?
That'd be lovely. I'd love a bit of that.
So that's the story of the game. If you're a Thundercats fan, and I am a huge Thundercats fan, the first thing you're going to notice with this game, after the somewhat horrifically jaundiced-looking Lino picture on the title screen, is the music here from Rob Hubbard, which is not the Thundercats title music. Thundercats music, by the way, is famous. Famous Thundercats music. Da-da-da-da-da, Thundercats.
Yes, it
shouts
is.
Thundercats. Feel the magic and all that. No, I don't need to say those few notes and you know what it's going to be like. But so it seems odd that the only version of the Thundercats music was Mark Cooks's, which was used back in Bomb Jack 2. And there is a reason for this, of course.
Yeah,
because the whole
that,
we did, but this is an extension of that, Adrian. This is an extension.
Okay.
The whole thing with this Thundercats game is that it never started out as a Thundercats game. This one included. According to those cool cats at the games that weren't, this game actually started out as something called Wolf. The original thought was that this was the never-released sort of samurai game, and that was what eventually became this Thundercats game, because at the time, remember Elite, we talked about it before, when it was Bomb Jack 2, Elite actually had set 3 people in motion to create a Thundercats game. I'm guessing in some kind of race. I'm not sure what they're really doing. There are 2 different teams and a third, I think, an internal team. One of those games became Bomb Jack 2. One of them became something else. And then there's this. Anyway, so it turns out that the most likely game that became this game was something called Wolf, based on some information from Chris Abbott at C64audio.com and his research into Rob Hubbard's well-documented catalogue of music, where it makes mention of music for a game called Wolf by Gargoyle Games that was never released. So by process of elimination and by looking at the games that weren't website, of course, we'll place the links in the show notes. Wolf became Thundercats with some tweaking. Some of the tweaking being mainly the backgrounds. Obviously, it featured a character that looks a bit like a wolf. Handy, that. A little bit of graphical change, and the backdrops changed at the back, where there were mountains and there was a moon. Now that's changed to something else. But essentially, I think what we got here is Wolf in the Thundercats clothing. So the game then. The in-game graphics are a tad off. They're not terrible, but they're certainly not amazing. There's a weird mix here, including some scanned images at the back, I think, so there's sort of weird scanned images that exist in sort of backgrounds, which are from the Thundercats sort of world. They look Thundercat-y, but they are clearly sort of digitized, which makes me think that they did that quickly to erase the backgrounds that perhaps have been placed there for the Wolf game. So I suspect they quickly needed to cover those up. Your Lino sprite is quite large, and I guess it looks like Lino, and he can run and jump, both of which are reasonably well animated. But his sword swing is a tad clumsy. So he's just a bit unwieldy. It reminded me of Rastan in a weird way as well. There's hints of that, although that comes later. The backgrounds are generally walls and rocks and ground, some occasional pillars. And then when you get down to the deeper levels of Plundar, what look like massive takeaway kebabs on skewers. They're all kind of shaded and a tad bitty, but they look like they should, I suppose, in the context of this. And the sounds are okay too. Again, they're not going to shout Thundercats at you for obvious reasons, but I suppose they've added enough of the relative Thundercats iconography to just about get away with it. The sadness here is that this game is banal and meaningless. Just roam across the levels, jumping over pits, avoiding or bashing mole men, repeat, with a rich repository of characters, stories, vehicles, superpowers, indeed the whole Thundercats universe at your disposal. The best they could come up with was this kind of Rastan-style run and sword sort of smash caper. This is more Beastmaster than Thundercats. Indeed, one of the key things about the Thundercats is that there were several of them. So a game that leveraged that particular fact might have been a better proposition. What remains here, because you are a Thundercat looking for other Thundercats, what remains is just dull and repetitive. A sad thing when you think about it, especially given the popularity of the license and everything that exists to this day. Just as a little idea, and I'm just going to give out a little bit of advice. I know it's retrospective now because this game was made many years ago, but how about you make a Thundercats license and start with the game based on the actual Thundercats and then build on that, as opposed to keep trying to change games that weren't Thundercats into Thundercats games. I'm just, it just seems like an obvious place to start. I know.
Just radical thinking.
Crazy thinking like that.
I don't know what you're on. You're not going to go very far in this industry.
We can't start a Thundercats game by using actual Thundercats. It's not possible.
No.
I mean, I know it's a novel approach to game design, AD, to start with the IP and the characters of the licensed game you intend to make.
Madness. It's
crazy,
madness.
I know, and crazy talk like that, and and that isn't, it is just. I'm just putting it out there. But I would say start there, start at that point and hire people. And again, I'm just putting this out there as advice, that actually give a toss about the game and the license thing that you're trying to make too. They have actually some knowledge about that. So you don't end up with this, which is not even a licensed game really that's based on the Thundercats. This was something else that was converted into a Thundercats game because there was a panic about not having a Thundercats game. You were doing a disservice to every person that likes that particular IP, every person that's worked on that IP and struggled and drawn all those animated scenes and done all of those and all the voiceover and all of this series. This is a big series. There's a lot of episodes of Thundercats. It's an iconography that's persisted, and it's one of the famous 80s cartoons. You're doing all of those people a disservice, even at that stage in the 80s, by putting this rubbish out. So I think this is absolutely terrible. I mean, it got 74% in Zap. How? I do not know. I don't get it, but I've given up worrying about what they think about these things. It's just, this is an absolute travesty. Sadly, this isn't the worst licensed game we're going to come across by a stretch in this episode, but this is shocking. And as a very hardcore Thundercats fan, I can tell you this is just crap. And this is no Thundercats game that I would ever signed off on if I had anything to do with it, nor should anybody. Avoid it completely. It is rubbish. But what about you?
Yeah, it's I actually noted it was probably a riff on Rygar. Rastan as well, sort of thing, but that kind of Rygar style of play. I know Rygar came before this, so it's that run along a flat level and kill stuff with a weapon, isn't it? It's that where insert scrolling arcade game where you hit people, Legend of Cage, whatever. It's one of them.
Hysteria and Altered Beasts and loads of them.
All of them, yeah. And it hides its lack of depth behind a very short time limit for each level, so you never really get a chance to notice the annoying level design and the actual lack of any content. You simply move through the level as fast as you can, and that's it, because you don't have any time. You just don't. It's just leg it. You got to leg it. Run, Lionel, run. Which was the the name of the film before they changed it to Lola. It's a very different film, I can tell you. So that's it. It gets very samey very quickly. The graphics in the game, they're okay. Lion-O is recognisable, I suppose, because it's called Thundercats, although the loss of his friends has turned the poor cat's hair grey from its usual fiery redness, is what I thought. Why is his hair not red? It should be red.
Don't question
He's got very red hair. It's one of it's his defining thing. He stands in front of the mirror every morning, preening that hair.
Well, he's a lion. Oh,
yeah. He's not grey hair. No, he's not Greyo, whatever that Wolfo. So the baddies are a mixture of medium-res critters, and the backdrops are simple blocks of colour. There's a parallax scrolling forest or something in the distance. Yeah, I don't know. If you want to run and slash action, I'm trying to think of, I suppose you just go play Antiriad or something. It's not running slash, is it? But something, this isn't very good.
It's better than this.
Well, of course, it's way better than this. I don't think it's... I didn't think it was terrible. I thought once I got into the pace of it, which is just leg it, it's kind of like reminding me of Eyeball. Once you get into the pace of that, Eyeball's the same. It's just run. Not run, but just get up. Go. It's a race game. And, but it gets old very fast, this. You're not going to make your way through all 14 levels. 14 levels of this.
Yep. And then you got to fight Mumra at the end, which is awful, by the way.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't get that very far. You do. I know. I'd just leave them. They can rot in Mumra's palace. Palace of Plundar. Plundar. Stupid name. No. It isn't very good, but you are right. It's not the worst we're going to come across. It's really not. That might come up next. I don't know why. Why? I don't understand this. And your question is really pertinent. Why not start your design for a Thundercats game with the Thundercats?
I don't get it. I mean, it's not like it's some difficult paradigm of characters to work from. Well, how can we make these into a game? What possible situation could we put these fighting cat creatures and these evil minions on this planet that they're unfamiliar with? You can't make a game out of that. That's far too difficult.
It's like what
Madness.
we said about what was it? Scooby-Doo. So with Scooby-Doo, that crap game that was, which is similar in tone to this, walking along, punching stuff, hitting stuff, crap, just rubbish. But, with a little bit of take a step back, you've got something like Murder on the Mississippi, Maniac Mansion coming up. You've got all these kind of games that show the 64 is quite capable of doing a murder mystery, the detective, all these things we've looked at. So, I don't know. It's clearly just, we've bought the license, get it out as quick as we can. We need to recoup the cash on what we've spent on the license. And I think that's what these games fall down on. When it's not an arcade conversion where the blueprint is already in place and they have to come up with something original, and it just doesn't happen because they've got to get a turnaround to get the cash back. And so they just pump something out, throw it out there. I don't know. Didn't think he'd take 15 months. Was it Knight Rider?
Yeah, something ridiculous like that. Yeah,
and then we ended up with that garbage. So it's just, you can see what the problem is. It's just seen you in the face. Short turnaround of title leads to crap, samey content.
Yeah. And of course, the prevailing factor is that when you don't start out to make a Thundercats game, and then someone goes, "That game you've made there," any chance you could put a Thundercats logo on it and go, "I suppose we could, but it's not really a Thundercats game. It is now.
Yeah,
it is now."
Oh, should we put the Thundercats music in it? No,
because we've already paid for that music. So put that Rob Hubbard music in there. It's nothing like Thundercats, but
put it in there.
No one will notice.
Yeah. And can someone draw a really crap loading screen?
Oh, that loading screen was stupid.
I'm done. And I'm done.
Stupid.
Really bad. Oh, there we go. Thundercats. License crapness. Let's move on into our next one. More license crapness, actually. Because our next one is the Commodore 64 conversion of Indiana Jones, the arcade game, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Did we ever? No, because it was 1984, wasn't it, Temple of Doom? So we've never actually spoken about the film.
No.
So, I don't know. Does everyone know what Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is? I guess most people probably do.
I think there can't be anyone who listens to this podcast who is not familiar with that film.
That's what I mean. So Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, it is the second in the Indiana Jones series of films. Obviously, the first was Raiders of the Lost Ark. That was 1981. This came out in 1984. And it was a tonal change for the series. I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark was quite gory in and of itself, but this was a bit of a weirder tonal change. It was a bit more, it tried to be more adventure-y. It got rid of the Nazis. It got into quite a lot of controversy because of its depiction of India and Indian people and the Tuggy guards and all that kind of thing. So there's kind of some controversy around this film as well. And also as well, it was also cut, I seem to remember, quite a bit for the cinema because of hearts being ripped out of living people and all that kind of thing. The plot of the film is essentially Indy ends up in the middle of India, where he is tasked by village elders to go and rescue the Sankara stones from the evil Mola Ram, who has stolen them for nefarious purposes. What's he going to do? He's going to raise some goddess, isn't he? Is that the whole point?
Kali, is it? Or something? I don't know.
I think it's Kali, Mumshaba, whatever, yeah. So the plan is to use these stones, these mystical stones, to raise this goddess. And so Indy, with his new psychic, Short Round, and new female psychic, Willie, what's her name? What was her name?
Willie Thorne?
I wish it was. That's the snooker player.
Could have been him in disguise.
Oh, Willie something or other.
Willie Wacker?
Willie Wacker, Willie Bob, Willie something. Someone, if you're listening to this right now, you're shouting the name at us. We'll come to it. Let me just have a quick look. Anywho, the point is
Willie Scott.
Willie Scott, there it is. Yes, Willie Scott. The point is, the three of them end up in this adventure to try and get back the Sankara stones, and this takes place through the mines. Basically, it turns out that they're kidnapping children. They took all the children from this village, along with the stones, and they're using them for slave labor to mine out this stuff, and fights ensue, and yada yada. And there's a crocodile end sequence, and there we go. It's a good film. It's probably the second worst, isn't it? It's third in the ranking, I guess, behind number one.
Yeah, it was still huge at the box office.
It was massive at the box office, huge. It took 300 odd million when it was released. It was a massive release, and so we're talking big film. And Atari in 1985 did a 3-level arcade game conversion of this, where they took some of the elements from the film and they made them into a good looking and a good sounding. It had lots of samples from the film and things like that, and lots of the music and all cool samples and things like that. And they made that into this arcade game. So now, 2 years later, Atari, via US Gold, have brought us their home conversion for the Commodore 64. So this game, like the arcade, is split into 3 parts. So this was developed by Atari. I couldn't find any detail, I don't know if you did, on actually who the developer, who made this, who was responsible for it. It's just in-house Atari. So God knows. No idea. I don't know who's responsible for this. So the first level, when the game loads up, did you think that he looked very thin on the loading screen?
Yes.
The perspective was slightly off for some reason on the loading screen.
It looks kind of like Indiana Jones, but he might have been trapped underground for a while, I think.
Yeah. It's a bit thin. The perspective, there's something wrong. Like someone's not quite understood perspective and how a face
something's
looks and an angle.
Something's off.
Something's not right there. So once that loads up, you are treated to, I want to say, a version of the Indiana Jones theme.
Oof, that music's so awful.
Ba, 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 ba,
Made worse, I think, isn't it? Because that particular bit of music is so familiar to everybody.
Yet it's so good.
So when you hear a bad version, it's like it actually angers you. You're like, God, you can't even get that right.
No, you've drawn him wrong. He looks too thin. The music's weedy. It doesn't bode well. So the three parts. You've got the first when the game first starts. You've got Indy, and he stood, I think, in front of the sacrificial altar, or whatever it is. He stood in front of some. He's in the mines, and so the first part sees you wandering around these mines, and it's a very small part. They loop around quite quickly.
Don't they just?
And you've got your whip, and for some reason, Indy is dressed all in white, like he's off to a wedding in sort of Harlem, 1978. So he looks like he's off to a disco wedding, but he's wandering around with his whip. There's a couple of snakes when you start as well. I don't remember snakes in the film.
There are none in that sequence.
No, I don't think there are. There's and they don't do anything. They're just there. You just whip them real good, and then they're gone.
They're from the arcade, but yeah.
Yeah, but so the stuff is from the arcade. So you're wandering around these sort of going up ladders, going along revolving sort of belts, whatever you want to call them, travelators or whatever. And there's 7 caged children, which is kind of the bit from the film where you've got to free all the children, or Short Round does. You have to whip the cages and that frees them. You've got to free all 7. There are tuggy guards wandering around as well, and you can whip them, and you can continually whip them and whip them off the ledges. But it doesn't really matter because another one spawns immediately. There's 2 of them dotted about. If they hit you, you lose a life. You've got 5 lives. Lose all 5's game over. If you fall off any of the levels, and you probably will because the controls are a bit dodgy and ropey, you probably will. So you might get to the second level. If you get to the second level, this sees you like similar to the arcade, navigating the minecart sequence from the film. So the famous minecart sequence where they're trying to escape and they're going down the mines and they're having fights and jumping and all kinds of crazy stuff going on in the film. But this sees you. I want to say it's isometric, but again, I'm not quite sure who did the graphics for this understands perspective.
I think they've got one eye going to the shops and another eye coming back for change.
So it's let's just say it's at an angle. So
not a good angle.
It's not a good angle. You can tilt your cart left or right to steer down. Choose where you want to go at the tracks. I think you can hit some of the bits as to change the way the tracks go. And you can also lean when you're on the track. You can lean to the left and right. You need to do that to avoid gaps on the track. Otherwise, it's game over. Use a life, whatever. If you get through this stage, then the third stage has you trying to recover a Sankara stone from the sacrificial altar while avoiding. I think you got to avoid Mola Ram. I never got to the third stage, so you got to avoid Mola Ram, and then you make your escape, and then I guess it loops round harder, whatever. So that's this. That was the arcade. So all 3 stages from the arcade are present and correct. I'm not quite sure they're as big as the arcade version, though. It's got a multi-load, hasn't it?
Horrific multi-load.
So the multi-load, if you die all your lives on the first level, has to load in again. Why?
I don't know.
Why? Because you can't be. All it does is go back to the title screen. So the title screen's in memory. Why is it going, I'll reload it? No, it's in memory. Just do a check. Did he get to level 2? Have we got rid of that? Whatever. I don't even know why it's multi-load anyway. This is not a big game. No. We've seen much bigger games in 64K. It's just bad coding. Just low. I think, it's just another one of the things. This is obviously coming from Atari, from the US, and it's built for a disc. It's built for a disc game. So I think they just don't care of it. If it's going on disc, just make it multi-load. It's easy. Who cares? Don't have to worry about memory so much then. Yeah, so it's all bad. The graphics are bad. The sound is bad. The controls are bad. And this really is another example of what you're left with when you strip back the fancy visuals and sounds from an arcade game to lay bare what is underneath. I think Chaz Rignall says it actually in his review. In Zapped. He does. Like, he states, the game itself ain't that great. And when you strip all away those findings, we've said this about so many games this year, these arcade ports. It's just not very good. It was cool in the arcade here in the the samples from the film and stuff, but here they're all gone, and all you've got is that weedy tune. Oh, just awful. This is a stinking corpse hanging from some spikes in a pit. This game is pure chilled monkey brains, and there's certainly no fortune and glory to be found here. In another time, I will be found, but this game won't. Oh,
how many puns can you fit into one sentence?
I wish I had taken this game from here and never let it see the light of day. I hate Snake, and I hate this game. I came up with loads more, but I'll leave it at that.
This was not the antidote to the poison I just drank.
It really wasn't. No. Oh dear. They took this game from here.
Anything did not go.
No, God, it was so awful. So I want to question as well. I mean, this must have bugged the shit out of you, but do they not know that the C64 has a register for scrolling the screen smoothly?
Don't even get me started.
I'm not sure they do, because it's just, the scrolling's so jerky, and so the scrolling slows down as well as loads of slowdown. So when the scrolling, it's just awful. It's nauseating to play. A stinker of a conversion from the ground up. Muddy visuals, awful earache-inducing music, a proper clanker. Awful. This should have been given to the Jovitas as some kind of punishment.
I should.
Awful game. Awful. What did you think?
I never liked the arcade, I'll be honest. So this was on a bad foot for me to begin with. The arcade was always too hard. You always died in the minecarts. And but at least it looked visually okay, I suppose, is the best you could say. And I think the last time I remember playing this was it was in an arcade that was in a Butlins type camp when that's how long ago this is, when that was a thing you could do when you were a kid. So at least it had samples from the film, didn't it? And the graphics were a nice kind of pixel art style, which all kind of worked in the context of that. Yeah, just wasn't very interesting, because in all fairness, Temple of Doom is actually one of the worst indie movies, which is contentious to say, but it's just one woman screaming for pretty much 90 minutes as far as I remember it.
Oh, Willie Thorne.
Yeah, Willie Thorne. Well, he would be. While I came here to play snooker. This seems a bit obtuse. Why am I having to eat bugs? Just eat them. So the 64 version is obviously suffering from limitations. And when I say suffering from limitations, that's me being kind. And in this instance, they're limitations that kill any remaining things that you might have even tried to like. And, Zap mentioned it's a good loading screen, as we've already said. I think he looks a little bit thin on the loading screen. It's Indiana Jones. Is that Indiana Johnson? It's like a lookalike. So that's not Indiana Jones as I remember him. But
get me his cut price Mexican equivalent.
So it's somebody that maybe looks a bit like him. The game graphics, there's no other way of describing them, are rubbish. I mean, they're really poor. The nicely drawn sort of arcade pixel sprites from the arcade are replaced by blocky, badly animated crap that scuttle around the equally blood-drained, colour-drained backdrops. It's just drab. The drab backdrops.
Yeah.
They're repetitive and dull, grey and black caves with boring ladders and the exact same tuggy guard that's running around all the time. So there's no variation. It's just the same guy. I kind of felt sorry for whipping him all the time as well, because they don't always permanently die. They just kind of get on their hands and knees like, ay, 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 ay. And I was doing that a lot to them. But it was the same one. So I thought, well, okay, he's just a sucker for punishment. He keeps coming back. The minecart sequence in this C64 version is utterly, utterly awful. I mean, goodness me. Not only was it badly drawn, with a sprite that literally changed shape when you went right. It just changed shape. It was just a different shape. It went from being like you said, the person who drew this clearly didn't understand angles, which makes me worry about every shelf in that person's house and every door, but he didn't understand angles. So when it was coming towards you isometric-ish, okay, when it went to the right, and by the way, that some of those right turns would have put bloody Automan to shame. I think even Zap say it. I mean, they were harsh turns. I mean, you cannot turn a minecart right angles. You can't do it.
No.
There's a reason why you can't turn a train 90 degrees any given moment. You just can't turn 90 degrees. They can't do it. Not possible. But you can in this. So it's really badly drawn, really bad perspective. The mine track bit was really stupid, and I managed to get through it pretty easily actually, and I didn't really try. So I don't know if I was just lucky, but anyway, I did get to the final bit, which is that really, it's just a slap across the face when you get to that throne thing, and it's just crap. It's just really crap. It's Molaram appears, and it's like, oh, whip, done. I was like, oh, you know what? This is just rubbish. That music is a testament to your acuity of how long you can stand it for before you actually start to feel sorry for your own ears and think, why am I putting myself through this? So everything's bad, as you said, graphics, music, everything. Slow and ploddy. It's not very nice. And then on top of that, you've got that really stupid loading. No, thanks. No, thanks. They gave it 41%. I mean, come on. Just because it's Indiana Jones, maybe they gave it a little bit of, this is easily in the 10 to 15%, maybe, just for the graphics. Some of those maybe are okay in that first bit, but awful. Not to mention the controls, as you said in that first section, which are really slow. He's just like slow Indiana Jones. Indiana Sloanes. He's so slow. Just slobbing about, plodding. There's no urgency. There's nobody there. I mean, considering this is a mine full of imprisoned children, there's one guard who keeps appearing and nobody.
Yeah.
So it's no wonder it's easy. I mean, if that isn't a challenge for an adventure, he'd have gone in there and gone, this is a bit too simple. Where's all the, the film is full of horror and there's a lot of horror around it. You don't have to put that in, but...
Where's Pat Roach?
Well, the trouble there is, of course, I mean, let's not go into it too much detail, but he blackfaced for that, didn't he? Which is horrific.
I'm not, yes. Yeah.
so that's just horrible. But thankfully, he's not in this game.
Yeah.
But even the scale of the rock crushers, the spinning rock crushers, and compared to the size of you and the guards are ridiculous. That's not going to crush a rock. It would barely crush a pebble. Let alone if you got your toe stuck in it, it might hurt.
Oh, they are the rock crushers, aren't there? I thought they were travelators.
Yeah, well, there is some of those. I think the travelators in there. I think they're sort of what do you call them? Conveyor belts. But
yeah,
but they're meant to be rock crushers. The big spinning things, but they're not. Oh, it doesn't. Why are we even debating it for? It's this stupid nonsense, and it's full price. You're playing on people's liking Indiana Jones, going, oh, it's that arcade conversion. Yeah, let's play that. When they got that home, they were angry. There's a lot of angry people going, why did I buy that stupid crap? Take it back to the shop.
Yeah.
Get the magnets out. Awful. Rubbish. Never again. Never again.
Yeah, absolutely. There we go. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Dote.
Good description, yeah.
That'll do for that. Let's move along to our next licensed product. Graham, have you got any little picnic baskets to tell us about Yogi Bear?
It's actually a pretty good impression of Yogi Bear, I'll give you that. So this is Yogi Bear. This is it's difficult to ascertain exactly who was responsible for this, but it's from Piranha Macmillan, and those are the people that did The Astonishing Adventures of Mr. Weems and the She-Vampires, or Trapdoor. So it could be any variant of the people involved in this. I don't think it's the Trapdoor guy, because it would look different, but...
They did Thingy as well, that Rogue Trooper as well, didn't they?
Yeah, so it's something to do with them. Yeah, they did... there's quite a few. They've got a bit of a... It's Piranha. That's as much as I can tell you, because I couldn't find a lot out, and it's not a lot given away in the game itself. This is another licensed game based on another cartoon. This time, it's Hanna-Barbera's turn, when they're classic, or some would say classic Yogi Bear. Now, I don't know if you know a lot about Hanna-Barbera and Yogi Bear and the lineage,
Tell us.
I won't go into too much detail. Suffice to say that Yogi Bear was a character that came from, it was an extension of a character that appeared in another cartoon, Huckleberry Hound, which is back in the, I want to say mid-60s or early 60s. By the way, Hanna-Barbera, if you don't know much about them, that was basically two people. I can't remember the names, obviously Hanna and Barbera, but I'm not sure whether that was their real names or whatever, but two people, ex-Warner animators, who were mainly responsible for Tom and Jerry. They basically did the very first ever Tom and Jerry cartoon before it was actually called Tom and Jerry. And then they worked almost exclusively on Tom and Jerry for many, many years, and then decided to make the sort of jump to doing other things. So obviously then they went on because they decided, I identified pretty early on that there's a good market for cartoons in TV. You remember up to this point, seeing a cartoon was something you did in cinema. You didn't see it on TV. Hanna-Barbera changed that. And over the period of maybe 20 to 30, I think maybe 30 to 40 actually years before they were bought out by Ted Turner, and then it all sort of changed hands and all things started to go wrong. They had 80 to 85% of the cartoons shown on television were Hanna-Barbera, which is kind of incredible.
That is incredible.
And so loads of their characters that you will know of, many that you won't, they did loads and loads of shows. Obviously Yogi Bear and all of those ones. Just Scooby-Doo, Flintstones, the Jetsons, that's just three off the top of my head. Never mind Yogi Bear, and there's tons of them. There's everything, think of a cartoon that you probably saw around that time, and it'll probably be Hanna-Barbera. So this is based on Yogi Bear, which was, as I said, a bear character that featured in Huckleberry Hound, and then got its own spin-off series. The cartoon is pretty much an extension of some of the ideas that they often did around that time, which was to take a character from a popular TV show, a real person, and make that into a sort of a character in a cartoon. So Flintstones was based on I forget which American TV show, and you have to excuse my knowledge here, but these are all based on black and white American TV shows, and you can go and do your own extensive research. But if you get the idea around things like Top Cat and Flintstones and the Jetsons, the main characters are all based on very popular people at that time who were in American TV. And Yogi Bear was no different. He was based on another character like that. So this formula that they developed, which was kind of to have a main character and a humorous sidekick and put them into silly situations that were easily repeated, week on week on week, is what led them to be very, very popular. Now, I don't think that Yogi ever reached the massive popularity that it had in the US. It was a huge cartoon in the US. I don't know if it ever really got that much penetration in the UK and Europe. I think partly because it was often deployed at strange times in the UK. There was never really a permanent time for Yogi Bear. It wasn't like it's Yogi time or anything like that. It was kind of either filtered into the 3:30 sort of nosebleed slots right at the start, normally as fillers actually, or sometimes shown towards the end of kids' TV around the 5:50 to 6 o'clock, before the news slot. So sometimes you'd get the odd Hanna-Barbera cartoon there, but you never really was assured that you were going to get a succession of Yogi Bear. Often not, it was a few top cats. You might get a couple of others anyway. So I never actually found Yogi Bear funny. I don't know if you ever did. In fact, I actually don't like it at all. I don't like the character at all.
It's okay.
It's not funny.
It.
No, he's after a picnic baskets. And the mainstay of the show is that for me, it had canned laughter as well, which is a big no-no. It killed Scooby-Doo for me, that did. But this is basically the perpetual misgivings of a pair of talking bears in Jellystone Park who are permanently trying to steal picnic baskets from the people who go to the park, and always being one step ahead of the park ranger Smith and sort of playing tricks on him and sort of getting one step ahead. And that's kind of the mainstay of it. So it's not something that ever tickled my funny bone, but if you like that kind of thing, that's basically the cartoon. And the reason I mention all of that is because this game is heavily, obviously it's based upon that character, based upon that, and a sort of a situation. So in the game, Boo Boo, your sidekick character, has been captured and caged at the other side of Jellystone Park. Your mission is to get him and rescue him. That's it. And in doing so, you have to basically scroll across, find certain objects and scroll across the screens and otherwise avoid enemies in a kind of a scrolling. And I would say jump, but he doesn't really jump or do much, does he? His jump's a bit, I don't know what you'd call that. We've talked about mighty bounds. I'm not sure what on earth you call it in this, but that's basically this game, is to sort of run and try and rescue. They can run across the levels, and there's not a lot in my experience, not a lot more to it than that. There's certain things that get in your way, and certain characters in the park will follow you around and obviously prevent you. And the idea is obviously to get there without encountering as many of them. And I didn't actually get that far in this because it's quite hard to do, and I kept getting sort of wiped out pretty quick. So the graphics in the game are actually they aren't bad. I mean, Yogi Bear is a fairly simple character anyway, and it's built in that classic Hanna-Barbera tradition of these characters. He's one of a few Hanna-Barbera characters that have a collar. Mm-hmm. And the reason they have a collar is because it allows the animators to keep the body of the character relatively static, and then you only have to redraw the head, so which keeps the cost of the animation down. Remember, Hanna-Barbera was all about the costs. So it's one of their cost-cutting exercises, as well as their famous looping the background technique and things like that. So you got a lot of things you can get away with in a game like this, which would mean you could put more in it because you can repeat the backgrounds and you can do all of that. This does feature characters from the game, and it does have situations that might present itself, from the cartoon, and it does present itself with situations that might appear otherwise in there. But none of it has any of the attraction because nothing funny happens. You're just doing kind of one thing over and over again in a kind of a dull stretch. So there's not a lot to it. You're not going to be side-splitting in laughter at any of the fun Yogi stuff and jokes because none of those really happen. There's no Boo Boo in it, so it's only Yogi. And Boo Boo's the sidekick character, sort of, we're cracking sort of pun one-liners or doing silly phrases.
It's the foil, isn't he? It's the foil,
that's the... I couldn't think of the word,
yes. It's the droll foil, isn't he?
Yes,
Yogi.
exactly. But without that, you don't have that character, nor do you have any other characters really to interact with. Park Ranger Smith is in it, but only in the sense that they chase you about, and if they get hold of you, you're done. But there's no funny one-liners. There's nothing like that. It's just, it's the game starts in this kind of weird, bland view, and you start running across with the Yogi, and it does move pretty quick. And I say it does look like Yogi. The graphics do look cartoon-like, but there's just nothing else to it. The game is just blank.
Yeah,
it's like they didn't think to put any more game in it. And it's the exact same problem we had with other Hanna-Barbera cartoon games and licensed games, where they've got such. I mean, I'm no Yogi fan, but I can think of a million. Even if you did this game like the other park, what was that park game that we played where you're in the park and you have to collect the litter?
Park Patrol.
So even if you made a Park Patrol variant with Yogi, it would be better than this, and it wouldn't be that much difficult. It wouldn't be that much different, would it? But they didn't do any of that. So they just can conjure this. The one thing about Yogi Bear as a character is that you have other characters with them. This is like taking, like they did with Thundercats. You take all of those characters and just make it about one character. What's the point? Yogi Bear without Boo Boo is pointless. So you spend the entire game without him. So which means none of the jokes, none of the stuff that you would normally have in there is going to work. There's nothing about it. It's just, it could have been any character in there. It didn't have to be Yogi. And so I didn't like this because I was on a back foot anyway, but it just felt like they just didn't know what to do with it. It's like they'd said, right, make a Yogi Bear game. They've gone, what's Yogi Bear about? It's a bear in Jellystone Park eats picnic baskets. Right, all right, okay. He's got a psychic called Boo Boo. All right, well, let's have him kidnapped and then just, walk along picking up picnic baskets can be your energy or something.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? No. So I'm busy, I've got things to do. So
I'm wanted in the basement.
just another £10 licensed game. Another, money stealing off people's better natures. I thought we'd been over. I thought we'd got over the hump of the licensed game fiascos, and yet here we go. It's a quadruple hitter.
6 of them here.
It's a Royal Rumble. We've just been they've been tagging each other and kicking us in the cock and balls here. Awful. I hated this game. I don't like Yogi Bear in here, but I hate the fact that they've ruined what was left of Yogi Bear and made this abomination. I think it's a travesty. It's just terrible. These licensed games can just get lost for me. They're awful. I mean, did you like Yogi Bear, the game?
No. It reminded me of that Flintstones game that we
same
played
basic
way
thing,
back.
wasn't it, actually?
Same kind of thing. Nicely drawn sprites, but completely forgot about anything else. And like you rightly said, this would be more interesting if they could have flipped this on its head and you could have played Ranger Smith with Yogi, trying to stop Yogi doing
Roadrunner style or something.
Yeah, something like that. Or like you said, a Park Patrol where you've got to protect and collect the picnic baskets before Yogi nips in and gets them or something. It's something a bit more interesting. Flip it on its head, play Ranger Smith, give him a gun, shoots Yogi, the dark version. That would have been maybe something. The problem with this is that the gameplay is really simple. It's really simple. You just you walk to the right and jump. But so it feels like it's aimed at kids, except it's really difficult because any pixel error, you're right back to the start, and that's maddening. It's absolutely maddening.
I meant to say, actually, the collision detection's ferocious in this.
Yeah, it's really bad. There's weirdness.
Jumping over those little pond river things. I'm like, aye!
Yes, you've got to find apples, aren't you, or something, that give you the code to get across the stepping stones. That's how you solve puzzles to get the boo-boo at the end or something. And you can warp about the park. You find these caves and you can warp through them that take you closer to Boo-Boo. But there's no point because you skip the apple. So it makes logically no sense. Unless, I guess, if you know the code, then it doesn't really matter, does it? It's never changed. Or maybe it does, I don't know. The graphics, like you said, they're okay. Yogi is really recognisable. But second time this episode, like we saw in the opening level of Thundercats, the background borrows from the Book of Coldplay. Because there's a lot of yellow.
It was very yellow, wasn't it?
It was all yellow at the bottom.
It was all yellow.
And just a big blotchy green for the distance. The other sprites background are okay. I don't know. Don't care about this. The game's frustrating and illogical. At one point, I pressed fire against what looked like a tent, I think, or something. I turned into a small bush or something.
There was some bugs in it, I think.
What is that? Am I disguised? I don't know. I can't abide games that punish you with pixel perfect jumps and send you back to the beginning to do them all again. No. Not games like this anyway. Like I said, I lasted about 3 minutes in this, maybe a little more, not much. I think I've spent more time talking about it than playing it.
Actually.
Yogi Bear. There you go.
Yeah.
Just no. This was a really bad game and I didn't like it because of it's just boring and it's all spit and polish and nothing under the hood.
Absolutely empty.
Yeah. There you go. Another quality licensed title. Bikes on a bike. Let's move on. We've got one more and then we'll go for a break and have some music. And our last one in this section is Action Force. This is another £10. I don't know anything about Action Force. Nothing. So I'm just going to go by what Wikipedia has told me because I don't know anything about them. So Action Force is a brand of European action figures that was released in the 1980s that was based on the Action Man toy line. It was also used to introduce G.I. Joe, a real American hero toys to European market. I don't remember any of that. I remember Action Man, but I really have no real memory of Action Force. I think I kind of remember the adverts. Beyond that, I mean, I don't think, did G.I. Joe ever take off over here? I don't know. It wasn't really anything for me. Unfortunately, what we have here is another frustrating and dull toy-to-game affair meeting our eyes. I mean, it looks nice. It's got solid visuals from the ever-reliant Ian Matthias. We've seen him in numerous games. There's doing many decent graphics, so that's quite good. And it's got good coding. I mean, it's well coded. This is by Dave Chapman, who will go on to do Dan Dare 2. But the gameplay, it's just kind of constantly being bothered by flies type of affair, where you're being tasked with doing something else, and that just stop it. We said this all the way back in episode 4, I think it was, where we talked about Entombed and the notion that if you want me to do something, stop bothering me constantly because I don't like it. So that was always problematical, Anyway, there's a plot for this. It sees the small island of Botsnada, and it's been attacked by the evil forces of Cobra. Special documents have been left behind, and these need to be recovered by Action Force. The game sees you piloting a helicopter, as noted, as you try and protect an AWE, all weather and environment buggy, and all cars. And most cars. If my car only went out, I could only go out in the sun.
See, this is why you don't work for the EQ department.
So this car you built, is it good in all weather? No.
If it dissolves in the rain, this one. Sorry about that.
Sorry,
made of soap.
We made it from pure sponge, so it gets really heavy when it rains. The drag is terrible. So this AWE buggy has retrieved the documents, and you basically you've got to protect it by piloting it in this helicopter. So you do this by, as I said, shooting down copious amounts of enemies, and you've also got to pick up bridge parts. You've got to land on these bridge parts, press fire, and it kind of picks up these bridge parts, and you've got to place them in the environment, gaps in the environment, because the AW buggy just trundles along. So you've got to basically build bridges for the AWEs. It trundles along. There's also towers in the way. You have to shoot them out of the way, and that's basically this game. The AWE will trundle along until it gets to the end of the level. You move to the next one. There's similar problems to be done, but all the time there's just enemies. You can fly into certain parts of the environment as well, which are very annoying because it's not really easy to track in 2D depth because it's just a 2D side-on shooter. So it's a bi-directional sort of, choplifter style view affair, but there's stuff in the foreground, there's stuff in the background, and there's stuff in the middle ground, and you can crash into stuff in the middle ground if you fly into it. You only have one life, so once you die, that's it, game over. And that's it, really. That's this game, and that's it. There's not much to it. There is mileage in dealing with the environment to ensure that you're lemming-like. Remember that word. Jeep survives as it moves along. But like we saw in the other one, we saw the other week, Rebel, remember the top-down tank one?
Yep.
Where you were the tank trying to line up the mirrors for the laser. They simply cannot trust enough in their game design and must fill it with never-ending enemies to bother and annoy you. And all this leads to is a game that is neither one thing or the other. There's not enough depth to the puzzling and dealing with the environment, and the shooting is boring and redundant. And thus you're left with two things, neither of which amount to a decent game, as neither of them offers any kind of fulfilling challenge. Just one's not enough and one's too much, boring and dull. It's also odd. It's really odd that should the Jeep die, the buggy, it's not game over. The world just goes to black. Did you notice that? It's weird. You just have to keep flying around in blackness. Like, what's happened? Is it some existential message? I wish these games would concentrate on the more interesting side of the design, more on the boring and endless shooting parts. It's not long before we get Lemmings. What's that, 3 or 4 years? And I know that's on the Amiga and stuff, but if you trust in the player if you give them enough in the puzzly part, you don't need shooting. You don't need it. It's annoying. And it annoys the crap out of me when I play these games, and you can see the kernel of a decent little idea, because essentially what you're doing is Lemmings. The basic part where you're building the environment and allowing a constantly moving object to get to the end by solving problems in front of it. That's Lemmings.
It is.
And so we know that Lemmings will work. It's just at this point in time, they're kind of building these things, but they just don't have the courage. Someone somewhere's gone, there's no shooting in it. It's Action Force. So where's the action? Well, it's this really cool little puzzle game, but it's Action Force, not Puzzle Force. In which case then, concentrate on the shooting. Make this pure blasting action, which would probably be better if it just focused on that and take away the puzzle stuff. As it is, you're left with a game that looks nice, coded smoothly, everything works as it should, and everything looks the part and everything, but just doesn't have enough of a hook in either gameplay camp to really draw you in. And that's what I thought to Action Force. What about you?
Yeah, bit dull, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think the tragedy here is that this is nothing to do with Action Force.
It's like I said at the beginning, I don't know affiliation with Action Force. I don't know anything about
Action Force figures were actually they were kind of an offshoot of Action Man.
Yeah.
So because they were like a miniature version of Action Man, they were actually a way of getting some of the American style figures into the UK and the Europe market. So they were basically they were a way of trying to strong arm G.I. Joe into the UK, but there were some really cool action figures that they made. Some of because they were smaller in stature, they're about the size of Star Wars figures, but they came with some really cool little extra bits, like the weapons they got with. I remember being quite excited. I remember getting a few for Christmas around maybe 1982, 83. Might have been around there. And I remember getting like a British commando soldier and an SAS officer. And I was everyone was enthralled with the SAS. They were like this mythical force of British super.
The Iranian embassy.
Yeah, totally. And in all fairness, they still are an amazing kind of thing. So I remember getting this SAS figure and And it held its weapon in kind of a really cool way. They weren't superposable like Action Men or anything like that, but they were just kind of cool. So there's a lot, even if you just made it about those things, there's actually, in actuality, I was thinking about this. The game that most resembles the Action Force figures is Strike Force Cobra, which we played some time ago.
Yeah.
Those are actually more like an Action Force game. That is actually a lot more like an Action Force game in every respect. This, well, flying around, shooting, refueling, rearming, helping the buggy by lifting and building the little bridge parts and doing that, all in that stupidly hard way with lots of things flying at you all the time in that most horrible way, lots of brown. The commitment to medium res in this game is not something I've seen since Sanxion. And that is commitment to medium res. You know, you're making medium res helicopters and they didn't look bad. They're not terrible.
No, I thought the graphics were nice in this.
Yeah, and it moves all right. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with the way it does it. It's just nothing to do with Action Force, other than everything the name Action Force on it, with that stupid screen where the Action Force scrolls across like a crap demo. So the enemies are all right. Your sprite's okay. The controls are okay. It's just not very interesting, all said and done, for the exact reasons you specify, because you're just continuously worrying about being hit by things in the air and not really giving much challenge of the very thing you're actually meant to be doing. And because it doesn't know whether it's one thing or the other, you're left with the classic situation of it not being any good at either. So ouch was my response there. I liked Action Force figures. I still do like them in their own little way. I quite like that idea of them being a kind of offshoot and they're a European equivalent of something. They were quite cool, quite collectible now, I think, some of them as well, especially some of the rarer ones. So it's a bit of an interesting quirk in terms of its license. There's nothing to do with the game. From people that could do a lot better and probably were a bit railroaded with this, I suppose they did what they could, but they didn't commit. And because they didn't commit, the game is wishy-washy. And then it just becomes not very good overall. And I didn't have a lot of fun playing it because I just got annoyed with having to do all the little bits that none of them really felt very, other than shooting things out the air continuously. I'm like, how many, what, these things are expensive pieces of hardware. What kind of military is that kind of money? Where they could just, throw 1,000 helicopters and just go, oh, never mind, just get 1,000 more. So these are, these are expensive items now. It's just a bit of budgetary constraint here. Come on.
I know, absolutely. Well, Cobra don't care about budgetary constraint. It has all the money in the world.
Well, yeah, I guess that, but for the sake of this being an Action Force game and having that, you may as well not have been. This is kind of a weird chopliftery type thing, really, isn't it? But anyway,
yeah, there we go.
It's not very good, and it's 60% generous licensed, and for a full price game, that's quite generous, I think, for this. So.
I think so as well. Yeah, there we go. That's Action Force. That's it. That's our 6 games. Our licensed treat. We've been licensed to kill on all them, I think. But there you go. That's 6 games. Let's go away because I think we need a bit of a break. And when we come back, should we look at music for December 1987?
I think we have to.
I think we should, seeing as it's next up in the agenda. Otherwise, it's going to be a real short show.
Yes.
All right. Let's do that then. We'll see you in a bit.
The novel Escape from the Commodore 64 by David Hearn is out now. Growing up in the 80s is a chore for Sarah, who feels misunderstood by her parents and badgered by Reese, her bothersome brother who incessantly prattles on about his treasured computer games. When Reese tells her one of the games tried to pull him inside the computer, she laughs off his fanciful fib. She waggles the joystick to disprove his fairy tale and is pulled into the computer. Now trapped in games she'd never had any interest in playing, how can she possibly beat them? With the help of feisty Nell, another trapped player, can Sarah find her way back home, or is it game over? An evil madman, a hostile planet, bloodthirsty robots, a never-ending throng of karate experts, and relentless digital soldiers will do their best to ensure Sarah never escapes. Available from Amazon and all good online retailers, find out if there's a way out of the beige bread bin of betrayal for Sarah in Escape from the Commodore 64.
All right, and we're back. Let's get into music in December 1987. The last music for 1987. The last. This is
one.
it. It's all about Christmas.
It's all to play for.
It's all about the lead up to that Christmas number 1, maybe. Let's see what it was. Number 1 singles. Let's start with them as ever. Number 1 for the first week. Still hanging around, as you rightly noted. China in Your Hand by T'Pow.
There it is. Just hanging around.
Just hanging around. Yeah. I've noted that it notes me that the title of the song is like an alternative proverb, but I'm curious to what you think a China in your hand would be worth.
I think about 18 quid.
Not like a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush.
No, I don't know what that
China in
equates
your
to.
hand is worth 18 quid.
For some reason, I thought of China vase. So I just thought it'd be like a vase.
No, it's like a bird in your hand. China in your hand. I don't know.
China's not a bird. China's a place.
I know, but it's like the proverb.
What proverb?
A
What are
bird
you
in the
talking
hand
about,
is
you
worth 2
crazy?
in the bush.
What's that got to do with China?
Just nothing. Just the same phrase. In your
No,
hand.
it isn't. No one says the China in your hand is worth 2 of anything.
That's why I said it sounds like an alternative proverb.
You just
keep up
losing it.
007.
Stop listening to China in your hand. It's affecting your mind.
It really has. For the last 3 weeks, though, of December and Christmas number 1, he was always on my mind by the Pet Shop Boys.
Surprised me that it was Christmas number 1, actually, till I read it. But I don't like this song at all. I hate it, in fact. I like the song. I don't like this version of it.
I like it. Unless you've already noted, I'm deaf. I was for 2 weeks.
You must be. I like the Elvis version of that because it's got emotion in it. It isn't sung by a wasp, which always on my mind by the Pet Shop Boys is. You're always on my mind. Awful. Maybe I couldn't. Ugh.
Yeah, I think they're deadpan and we capture something in the song.
Yeah, nothing good.
Right,
Anyway, but we'll have to agree to disagree.
Yeah, we will. There's only one number 1 album.
Well, we knew what that would be last month.
It was. It's now that's what I call Music 10.
Surprise, surprise.
It's just all month.
Yeah,
it's
obvious.
It's the perfect Christmas present, isn't it? We've said this every year.
Exactly.
We cut and paste what we said at 1986 number 1 for December.
Every single year.
And I'm sure when we get to December 1988, it'll be now that's what I call Music 13.
Yep, without a doubt.
Probably.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. All right. There's not a lot to say about that. Let's get into singles. 6th of December, number 2, straight in at number 2 was When I Fall in Love by Rick Astley.
I call shenanigans.
Why?
Shenanigans on this song because the version released by Rick Astley was released in November the 30th, 1987, a clear ploy to get to Christmas number 1 by our friends Stock Aitken and Walkman. This coincided with the 30th anniversary of the release of Nat King Cole's version. So it's the Nat King Cole version. I know that's a bit of a beloved song, Nat King Cole's version of this anyway.
When I fall in love. That one.
So this single is mainly remembered for a closely fought contest for UK Christmas number 1. Rivals EMI, hoping to see their act, Pet Shop Boys, reach number 1 with Always on My Mind, re-released the version by Nat King Cole at that exact time.
Oh, clever. That's clever.
It led to a slowdown of purchases of Rick Astley's version, allowing the Pet Shop Boys to sneak right in there and get the top spot. Well played, but dastardly.
Yeah, and Muttley.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's really, I applaud that. That's quite clever.
It is. If you're going to go into chess with music at Christmas, don't play it with EMI. They know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
They've got the back catalogue to crush you.
Absolutely. They've got 7 queens.
You're going to release When I Fall in Love? Ha! Here's Nat King Cole's version. Shut up, Brick. Shut up.
Shut up and go away.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that nobody released Elvis's version of Always on My Mind to counter them.
Well, they didn't need to, did they? They just needed to. If Rick Astley had released, that song, then maybe. But they wanted the Pet Shop Boys to be number 1.
Yeah,
so.
But I mean, I wonder who owns the rights to Always on My Mind. And
good question, actually. It's actually an old song than Elvis. Elvis sang it, but he wasn't the person that wrote it. It came around as a country and western song way before that.
Oh, I don't know.
You'd need to do a bit more research than I've done for that.
Okay. Number 4, Always on My Mind by Pet Shop Boys. That's where it went in at before it went to number 1.
It is.
We've talked about that. I like it because I'm deaf. Fair enough.
Partially deaf. Suddenly remembered, yeah.
I got it fixed, by the way. I'm not partially deaf anymore. It's all fixed. It's all good. It's all good in my ears.
It's all good now.
Number 15, The Look of Love by Mad on Her.
Madonna.
Madonna.
Another track from the movie Who's That Girl?
Where's Madonna?
Do you remember this song at all?
No.
I didn't.
No. The only one is it a cover of is it ABC? Did it Look of Love?
No, it's not. It's its own thing. And
it's the look.
But
it's
completely. It would have been better if it had been that. I'd love to have heard Madonna's version of that. It's totally forgettable. From a very forgettable film, because I couldn't honestly tell you anything about Who's That Girl, the film.
No, it's not very good. It's really not. No. I've seen it, but no, it's not very good. As you've right noted, they should have called it What's That Film? Yeah,
because I can't remember it at all.
No one can. Even Mad on Her can't.
It's been erased.
At number 42, Children Say by Level 42. How apt in at 42?
I think that's a couple of times that's happened with them. I'm sensing a great tremor in the force.
Don't say his name, though.
No. There's an error in the Matrix or something.
Yeah, there probably is. What's this you've written? children say that if you say the glonk 5 times in a mirror, Mark King will appear you and crush you to death with one thunk of his thumb.
Yes. And some true facts. His thumb is insured for £3 million, making it the world's 9th most valuable appendage.
Is that true?
That's a true fact, yeah. And in the mercifully short Shanklin Thumb War on the Isle of Wight in 1977, where Mark King's from, Mark King's dedication and thumb bravery led him to receive the Golden Thumb Medallion after he rescued an entire battalion of thumb troopers by digging a 9-metre trench in 45 seconds with just his thumbs. Now that's thummy.
Yeah.
We can't verify those facts, but some of them may be true or may not be. We don't know. But in the end, aren't all facts based on a non-truth that we don't understand? We don't know.
I wrote that in an essay once. I got an F.
Oh, did you?
With the answer, no. No. Number 43, Heaven is a Place on Earth by Belinda Carlisle.
Yes. Interesting, actually.
Is this really the You Gave Love a Bad Name Bon Jovi chords?
It is, if you think about it. So, if you, ooh, heaven is a place on earth. Oh, shut to the heart, and you're too. It's the exact same chord pattern, if you listen to it.
Yeah, probably.
So much so that
it's a great song.
It is a good song, don't get me wrong. Orbital famously mixed the two songs together in the live performance of Halcyon, and which we'll put the link to in the show notes. And at 3 minutes 44 in that particular link, that's where they mixed the two together, famously mixed the two together live during that. So there's no mistaking it.
All right, okay.
So it's quite good. But
they're both great songs because that chord pattern obviously worked. But I really like that Heaven's a Place on Earth. It's just a cracking 80s rock tune.
It's good off a good album, which we'll come to later, actually. But.
It is, yes. Number 55, There's the Girl by Heart.
Oh, I didn't like this. Did you like it?
No, I didn't. No.
I thought it was just shit. This song, really shit.
It's not good, is it?
No.
As you've noted, there's loads of Egyptian iconography in the video for no reason.
Did they work on the Bangles music video at some point when they were doing like an Egyptian and go, can we borrow your Egyptian stuff?
Probably.
Yeah, okay.
It looks like it was shot at the same time as These Dreams.
Yes.
If you ever watch the These Dreams video, it looks very similar because there's a bit in the These Dreams where there's loads of hands reaching up through a grid and there's a thing in there.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a small sort of pond, in the studio where they are, and that kind of look. It's almost the same bloody video, but they're on different albums.
Yeah. I think maybe they just like it. Maybe it was a one video set where they all went to shoot the videos and they're like, go in that corner, that's the Egyptian corner, and shoot your video over there. That's
your heart area. It's also sung by Nancy, isn't it? Not
the guitar. Is it the guitarist? Yeah, it's not the. Yeah, so she's the guitarist. Was it the first time she did that? I think, or one of the first times she did it.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I know
it's not bad. It's not bad singing. It's just not a great song. And the drum kit in the video is beyond explanation.
It's no way to play them all at that angle.
It's just weird. I don't quite know what it is. There's this giant tube connecting at one point. What is that for?
It'd need to be that creature out of Mortal Kombat with all those arms to play that.
It would. And my final thought on this was that this song is just a bland cake, like a Madeira or a plain sponge, like the bass layer only, just dull and uninteresting and needing more sprinkles or icing.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good description of this song. It ain't very good. Still there, number 58. Oh, no, actually, this is the single. We had the album, didn't we? And number 58 is The Tunnel of Love by Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, we talked about it, didn't we, where he's not actually in a tunnel during the video.
Yeah, he's in a house, strange.
Trapped.
So, he can't get out. Someone should arrange a rescue party for him. It's that charity single, Help Out the Boss.
Help Out the Boss. We'll get him out of that house. Yeah.
Can you help out the boss? It'd be a great loss. So,
that would be the level of songwriting as well that went into that.
It's better than our next one though. Number 62.
Yeah, this
is a cover
shocking.
of All Right Now by Pepsi and Shirley.
What were they thinking?
I don't know. I'll just say that I thought the video looked like it was filmed on the set of Top of the Pops.
I think it did look exactly like that, didn't it? It was like very much that, very a small stage in a TV backlot somewhere. It wasn't expensive looking.
No.
And I put whoever thought this was a good idea needs a good telling off. That made to wear really tight, small shoes until they get really painful blisters. It's god awful. And a slap across the face for free. But I suppose they must have given it the okay. I don't think they could have heard it before they said that. Like, can we cover your song? Yeah, who are you, Pepsi Shirley? You're going to do a good job? Oh, yeah. All right. Since you said you're going to do a good job, we'll trust you on your word. So it's awful.
Yeah.
This is a bad cake. This is like a fruit cake that wasn't sealed properly with a decent crumb coat and went off in the cupboard.
I'm sensing a cake-based theme that's appearing through these this analysis.
Yes. I was just thinking about what kind of cakes these things were.
Yeah. It's a bad thing. I did laugh as well at the attempt to metal them up in the video with all that leather jackets and stuff.
It's embarrassing.
And the band behind them. Oh, it was really bad.
Jeez.
Number 63, Christmas in Hollis by Run DMC.
Yeah, Christmas rap.
Yeah. Oh, crap. No, rap.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows? Number 67, ESP by the Bee Gees.
Yeah, the original title of the song was... It is, yeah. The original title of the song was XTC, or Ecstasy, before the Gibbs realised that it sounded like a drug reference, so they changed it to ESP.
So but there was a band called XTC, wasn't there? Back a punk band.
Yeah, but that's not the Bee Gees way.
It's not.
And the commandments of the Bee Gees, it's thou shalt not make drug references. So. There it is.
Not if you want to stay alive.
The 10 commandments.
I wonder what the other 9 are. Let's not
know.
Do it. Number 84,
no.
Tubbs and Valerie by Jan Hammer.
Yeah.
Massive milking.
It was awful, this.
Yeah. He filled up massive tubs with all the milking of the Miami Vice teat.
Ew. Dark, horrible thing that it would be. It was horrible, that song. Rubbish song. Music, rubbish.
No, it's not good. Number 89 is I Dream of Christmas by Anita Dobson.
Bring back Jan Hammer. This was absolutely awful. This was awful. It's out of tune. I mean, her singing is really bad in this.
I had enough with that last bloody one, that wartime effort where it suddenly became whatever, the miming in the... and that was done.
It starts with kind of a howling Christmas sound. Like the sort of
howling Christmas sound.
Well, like a Christmas call, it's like kind of a keyboard played choral Christmas sound. You know, the sort of thing. It's kind of haunting, and then it descends into this song that she sings with really, really bad lyrics. I've got some of them here. I sit alone by the fireside and watch the old year passing by. Down the street, they're singing party songs. You know, Christmas always makes me cry. And so tonight, my thoughts are reaching out. Though you're a million miles away. My dream is strong enough to see me through our loves forever and a day. I'm not going to bore you with any more lyrics, but I just want to explore the geography of that statement she makes. Because if this is just a thought I had, if she's based in London, if her lover person that she's lamenting in this song was a million miles away, where would they be? So it's only 9,500 miles to Australia. So clearly they're much further away than that. And assuming that they're not just you can't just go round and round around the Earth until you stop. So where would they be? The moon is 238,855 miles away from the Earth. So that's a quarter of a million miles. So it's further away than the moon. But Venus is 38 million miles from Earth and Mars is 33.9 million miles. So they're just lost in space somewhere between the moon and Venus or Mars, which kind of places the whole thing in a bit of a pointless way. So
maybe she fell in love with an astronaut who got lost in space.
Exactly.
On the far
but
side
no mention
of the moon.
of that. No mention of that kind of sci-fi route in this.
That's why Christmas always makes her cry, because the mission went wrong at Christmas. So it's that horrendous Christmas mission to the moon which went badly wrong.
Like I say, if you're going to write lyrics and throw in arbitrary geographic statements like that, you better be able to substantiate those claims with real distance-based logic. Don't go throwing a million miles into a song when if he's only in, Newcastle, it's just it's a 2 or 3 hour train journey. So you may be a couple of hundred miles tops.
He could be there. He could be there in a couple of hours. Get in a car,
exactly.
Drive.
You're never that far from anyone really on the Earth when you realise the distances like that, are you? So
yeah, true. Number 96.
Sorry, Anita, to pop your geographic bubble.
No, it needs doing. We're here to sort this shit out.
Got to level that playing field.
Yeah, absolutely. We can't have this. The 80s got away with a lot, and we're not having it anymore.
No.
Number 9 is The Equalizer is Busy Equalising by Stuart Copeland.
This is odd, wasn't it?
Yes.
I don't know why not just call it the Equalizer theme?
Gosh.
Why put the phrase busy equalising on it?
What does that? I reckon because he's playing football, and they're 2-1 down with 3 minutes left to go.
It could be that. Yeah,
and, he's just popped up with they brought on Woodward. He's gone forward. He's right up on. He's headed it top corner. Edward Woodward equalises in the last minute.
That's a good job we call him the Equaliser, because that's why they brought him on.
That's his nickname, Edward Equaliser Woodward.
I mean, it's just the idea is, and that ruins the show if you think about it, because is this, in the show is this kind of ex-secret agent guy taking on and equalising the rights, and this is just busy equalising. What do you do for a living? Just equalise stuff. I'm an equaliser. I go into music studios and just balance their audio.
Absolutely. I go
I
into
do.
shops and make sure everything's stacked to the same height. You need that equalise that shit.
The only interesting vibe I picked up from this was how that music sounded like it could have come from an 80s arcade game made by, like a fighting game in that sort of sense of Final Fight style. And that is interesting because maybe that's a lineage there. I don't know, but that's something for other people to figure out.
A lot of that. I mean, it led me down the sort of realization that I never really liked that music on the Mega Drive that I heard.
Yeah.
I wasn't a big Mega Drive music fan. I know a lot of people are, but that kind of sample-heavy stuff that drove that lot of 16-bit stuff was never for me.
Well, it's driven by a very specific sound chip. I must be correct.
I do really like the Outrun music, but that doesn't sound the same as those later sort of 90s. I mean, Outrun was, 85?
Yeah, I think
85, 86. There's a different style to Outrun. It's that jazzy. And it's also got a nice tune. It doesn't sound like that. I listened to that Final Fight one. It's like, it's all that.
Yeah, it's that kind of that very limited sound sort of style, isn't it? I don't know.
It's low bit sample.
There's only two, I think, on that particular chip. There's only two channels of samples. The rest are kind of hardware sort of sounds. So there's like a fixed range of Mega Drive sounds. You need an expert on it, of which I'm not. And we do know one, and maybe we'll ask them, or we'll look in the book, the sound chip book. But other than that, at some later stage, maybe.
From a personal perspective, it was never. I think just because I was so used to Sid music, and the Sid tunes have that whine, that noise that the Sid makes, and it's not samples. So.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't like a lot of the later pieces of music when Hubbard and stuff get into the sample heavy stuff.
Yeah, there is that argument.
Mm-hmm. There is. Number 100, Stutter Rap, No Sleep Till Bedtime by Maurice Minor and the Majors.
Let the novelty rap commence.
I know. However, to be fair, I did listen to this, and as pastiche as go, obviously of the Beastie Boys, this is really bang on the money. I mean, okay, the subject matter these days, like Weird Al Yankovic's Fat, it's not aged particularly well, but some of the lyrics are good though, and still did actually make me chuckle. I think the line, when you're 13 is just a clever line. Obviously,
there's moments in it. I mean, the guy that did it is he's quite a famous comedian. He was on things like Have I Got News For You?
Tony Mortimer, is it? He's in Red Dwarf and stuff, isn't he? So
he's done quite a lot of stuff.
I get it. It's a product of the 80s, and they would never release this now. You couldn't. I get it, but
no, you'd all be cancelled before you even left
but there are
the
parts
room.
of it that just tickle my funny bone for some reason.
Yeah, no, that's all good.
Right, 13th of December. In at number 25 was Touched by the Hand of God.
An odd
New
song.
Order.
Odd song, that.
It's not. I didn't particularly like this.
No, I don't. I didn't really like anything about it, and the video was just weird.
Yeah, really weird. Directed by Catherine Bigelow.
Yeah, which is odd.
Yeah. I mean, did you? I presume you watched it. I watched it.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're dressed up like a glam metal rock band, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a whole Mickey take of that kind of hair metal type video, and quite a good one if you buy into it. But it's just I just thought, why? Why?
I don't know. It doesn't seem to go with the song at all.
No, it doesn't. I think it's even used in a film, but not anything to do with. There are not any films to do with Catherine Bigelow. So. No,
and as you've noted, Remy Gardner and Bill Paxton pop up there in the video, later on in it. But I can only notice the look of it, especially the late bit of Bill Paxton, Catherine Bigelow. This must be straight off the set of Near Dark.
They must have just been in the same bar or something.
They've just done Near Dark together, haven't they?
Yeah, no, but what New Order hadn't. No, I don't know how they got involved.
Maybe they just liked Near Dark and went and got them. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? Really number 34, Last Night I Dreamt That Somebody Loved Me by the Smiths.
Yeah, keep dreaming, you unlikable arsehole. That's my comment to that.
That's all you need to say. Number 60, On the Turning Away by Pink Floyd.
I quite like this track. It's quite an interesting one off Momentary Lapse of Reason, noted for being one of Pink Floyd's rhythmically most complex songs, constantly alternating between various time signatures. That can be annoying, but
that's why
I thought it was quite nice sounding, which is odd because you're a Rush fan and they do that all the time.
But I found this, but there's time signature changes and time signature changes. It's like the Iron Maiden, paradox. I thought this was quite morose. The time changes just make it sound like things are coming in too soon or out of time. I couldn't, so it was. Nah, Noodly Solo as well. Yeah, okay, Noodly Solo. It's also earnest and not in a Borgnine way, and I'm not happy about that.
I just quite like the vibe of that. When Pink Floyd do tracks like that, a bit like Comfortably Numb and tracks like that, I find them genuinely quite interesting to listen to. I find it, and I'd rather that than some of their other stuff. So,
yeah, I think I just never got on with Pink Floyd.
No, well, I'm the same, and I couldn't tell you that I like any full album, or well, maybe Shine On, but generally speaking, there's always turning points for me where I think, I've had enough.
Exactly.
Just the Wall,
I had to listen to the Division Bell
I've had enough.
so often when I lived with Gary, friend of the podcast, and he got it that year. I was living with him, and he played it constantly.
Well, his doorbell is that album, that full album. So if you press his doorbell at his house, you're going to be there for an hour.
So he comes out and slices the bell in two in front of you.
Exactly.
It's really annoying. So I just want to came round, see if I could borrow a cup of sugar. Stop slicing bells.
A cup of sugar.
At number 68, well, I mean, I would probably prefer to listen to On the Turning Away than what was at number 68 because it's True Devotion by Samantha Fox.
This actually shocked me.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I played this to my partner because she really likes Drive by the Cars.
I thought you were going to say True Devotion by Sam Fox.
I said, listen to this. What does this sound like? She went, that's Drive by the Cars, isn't it? I went, no, it's not. It's Sam Fox. She walked off in disgust.
Terrible.
It was awful.
Hints of Berlin and Take My Breath Away in there as well. Not good hints. Not good hints at all. Bad hints.
The bad hints.
All the bad stuff. I was actually surprised at how much of a rip-off it actually was and how they got away with it, because I'm pretty sure. I'm reasonably sure. I mean, YouTube must have a particularly good engine for detecting which song is which. Because if you played that, I'm surprised they haven't been copyright struck by whoever owns the license for Drive by the Cars.
Cars, I guess.
Yeah.
Awful.
Don't know. Awful. And a bad video as well with a huge microphone that covers up most of her face. And the whole point of her being in the video, it's just meant to be a model, isn't she? So
yeah, putting a microphone in there is not the best.
No, it's really obtusely positioned. It's always in the way permanently.
I know. I reckon that video was sponsored by the microphone maker.
Well, just, just a word of advice again, and I'm just going to say this. If you're going to shoot a close-up of your model singer, don't use a really low f-stop and then put a microphone in front of it, because you're only really going to see is most of that microphone. Just saying. Just saying. We're full of good advice this episode. We have been. Genuinely good advice.
Absolutely.
No, don't upset the talent by filming the microphone.
Ask to the past.
It's an old adage, that.
Absolutely. Maybe he just doesn't love you anymore and it's time to move on. Number 73, Wake Up Dead. By Megadeth.
No, I'm not a Megadeth fan.
Did you watch the video when I linked it?
I did. I watched the bit that you said about I'm not even sure what that is. It's just white noise.
It's a guitar solo or something.
It's just erratic finger placement. It's like, I don't know how his fingers do those things.
But they just make noises that are horrible.
Yeah, it's just lots of crazy stuff going on with that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Number 76 is Shame by Eurythmics.
Yeah, ironic, and it's crap.
And crap, there we go. Yeah. Number 83, In God's Country by The Alarm. Sorry, I mean U2.
This made me laugh loads. It was so unmistakably U2 sounding that it actually sounded like a cover band.
Yeah, it sounded like The Alarm.
Are U2 a cover of themselves?
Which would be them four.
So they wrote a song, recorded it, and then recorded it again as U2 because they wanted to cover their own songs. That's how pretentious they get. No one covers our songs but us.
Who do you think they're talking about when they call themselves U2?
Yeah, true. Yeah, no.
Like, well, who? Is it Bono and Edge, or is it Clayton and Mullen?
I don't know. It should be
Edge?
U4 maybe, or
yeah.
I don't know. It should be really, shouldn't it?
U2.
U2. I don't know. I've put this is forgettable and boring birthday cake. This is the Asda own brand birthday tray bake of songs.
Yeah, it is. And as I've noted, it sounds like they covered an Alarm song.
It does exactly sound like it. Yeah, weird tit for tat.
Number 88 is Songs for Christmas 87 by the Mini Pops.
Troubling.
And then just before we get into it, it reminded me of the bit, and I've linked to the clip, and I've got the actual timestamp in there, of the Brass Eye section where naked toddlers dance for the pleasure of watching adults.
Yes, in that pastiche. Yes, let's be very clear about what that is.
Yeah.
Oh no, but they didn't come from that. That's where they got that from. Yeah, it's blatantly
yes,
because they did something similar in Time Trumpet as well, where they had loads of kids just playing, and there was just loads of adults watching them from a sort of balcony.
It's just so disturbing.
I don't know. I mean, I think, and for good reasons, mini pops have been erased from time and space. But for anyone listening to this that's wondering what the hell we're talking about, this was a TV show where they basically got small children, and when I say small children, 5 or 6 year olds generally, maybe 6 to 8, maybe 9, around that sort of young children anyway.
Yes.
They dressed them up as the pop stars of the time, contemporary, and sing contemporary pop songs, but they dressed them up and put them in all the makeup and the shoes and the clothes of the adults, and also sing the songs that the adults sing. Now, sometimes those songs were happy-go-lucky children's songs, and that kind of thing, where the wheels on the bus do go round and round. And other times, when you're singing "I Love Rock and Roll" by Joan Jett, it starts to get a bit odd.
It does.
And it gets worse and worse. And so this is, I didn't see what the mini pop thing was, but it's just really, I've got a link to what mini pops is. I don't know if I dare post it, but it's just,
oh yeah, post it.
What can go wrong when you're dressing up children, small children in adult based costumes singing rude songs, and doing suggestive dances, copying the dances of the adults as well. It's really weird.
Yes.
Really creepy
Yeah.
TV. TV got creepy at certain points, didn't it?
It
It's
really
Channel 4 again.
Whatever it is, it's bad.
It lasted one series, then it got cancelled very abruptly. I can't imagine why.
Yeah, someone actually. What you did? What?
Yeah, they're just. I imagine the execs are they're on a tour of the studio, going, "This is where we film mini pops. Mini pops, what's that? Good lord!" Shut this down immediately.
Localized in this studio.
Shut this production down.
Who authorized this? Well, it says on the. I'm not going to do that joke. Yeah, bad. 20th of December.
Bad, horrible. Yeah,
There's only one release, and that was at number 71. That was "Oh L'Amour" by Dollar.
Oh God, that song
Francis
was
Dollar Hyde. Can you imagine if he did it? You owe me l'amour.
Here I am. Yeah, it's not this. The lead vocal is out of tune right at the start.
Yes,
and it's badly out of tune. And you asked there, what key is that in? That's in no human key. Maybe the same one that pigeons coo in.
Same one as Francis.
It is, however, a cover of the Erasure song. So Erasure wrote that, and you can kind of tell if you listen to it.
Yeah,
if you think about it, you sort of hear it. But in your mind, think how it was sung by Erasure. Please don't linger too long on the Dollar version, because I won't buy that for $1. And there's a reason why he ended up in a burger van, and it ain't a good reason.
Yeah, he wasn't alive.
No.
People were eating him. 27th of December, there's only two singles were released. At number 87, "When You've Lost That Loving Feeling" by the Righteous Brothers. Yeah,
I don't know why it's out there. It just is.
I think Ghost is a bit later, but Ghost is... Because I remember going to the cinema to see Ghost when I was in the sixth form, so it's not yet.
Just a happy Christmas song. Yeah.
Well, it's post-Christmas now. We're in that post-Christmas malaise.
Yeah,
27th of December to...
Sure,
that week of nothing, especially back in the 80s.
Or something. Maybe an advert or something.
Back in the 80s, that week really was just a week of nothing, wasn't it? It was just
eating and just collapsing mainly in my house.
Yeah, and just trying to see through a fog of brown.
Yeah, just yeah, exactly. Yeah,
especially in your house.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been round.
Just, lots of brown food.
Number 95, "My Baby Sure Can Shag" by the Tams.
They liked the shag songs, didn't they? The Tams.
They did.
Yeah, from the album "We Love to Shag."
Yeah, loads of classic tracks. Can you want to?
Yeah, Shaggy is better than Scooby. Shag pile carpets. Shagging is better than the boogie. Fancy a shag on the dance floor. Shagger like a ding dong. Do the shag. Father, they're shagging. And
made me laugh so much at that.
And shag on, shag off, Miyagi style.
Yep.
And
there's also "Shag Me Do," "Paint It Shag," "House of the Rising Shag," "Careless Shag," "Putting on the Shag," and "Shag a Glonk."
Shag a Glonk sounds like a singer. Like
Shaka
Khan, Shaka Glonk. Ladies and gentlemen, we present the new duo, Chaka Khan and Shaka Glonk.
Shaka Glonk, Chaka
Glonk. Where you going, Shaka Glonk? Shaka Glonk. God, it's actually really hard to say with Chaka Khan at the same time. But yeah, there you go.
I don't know. Why were they doing all the covers? Well, why not?
Just a cover album, yeah. They later did a spin-off cover album with Shag Me Do and Shaka Glonk, Shaka Glonk. Where you going, Shaka Glonk?
Oh dear. Putting on the shag. That's it. That's your singles. Let's get into albums. There's not many albums. It's Christmas, and nobody wants to be in the wake of now. That's what I call
exactly.
music.
You're not going to win that battle, are you?
So 6th of December, in at number 87 was Light at the End of the Tunnel by The Damned.
Yeah, double compilation album. Includes a cover of the Beatles song Help, which I can't imagine would be very interesting. Yeah, I know. I thought
weird.
that.
Very weird. Number 93 was Phil Spector's Christmas album, 1987 version by Phil Spector.
I think it's a CD re-release. I didn't look into it because I don't really like Phil Spector stuff.
No,
rest in peace.
So this is the Christmas re-release. It's not Christmas, variety tracks. 13th of December, number 64, Inside Information by Foreigner.
Yeah, brave to release it then. 6th studio album from them. Went platinum in the US, but sales were nowhere near the same volume as their previous album, Foreigner 4.
Which was their 5th album.
Yeah, don't. Let's not even think about it.
what did it start at 0? Did they start like in computer talk?
Possibly. It's like an array.
The first one in the array is 0.
Yeah, probably.
What's Foreigner 0?
Oh, they started on row 0 on the spreadsheet. Oh, why did we do that? Damn it.
What's a spreadsheet? It's 1987.
Shh. I am a traveller of both time and space.
You'll thank me in the future. Put shares in Microsoft.
An Apple. Something called Apple.
The
music producers? Why? Oh, go back to your silly lives. I'm going my time machine.
Back to when we released Foreigner 9.
I might even erase you. Which
is our 10th album. And then we released Foreigner A. Oh, I've done it in hex. Damn it.
They're working their way through the different mathematical formula, yeah.
Foreigner 10111.
Notation. Yeah. Oh, but why are we releasing our album titles in binary? I don't know. Some guy from the future came and said it was a good idea to put all of our money in something called microcrap. I don't know. I can't remember. It might not have been that. Yeah, it might have been something to do with fruit. Oh, BlackBerry. All right. Well, okay.
Oh, dear. Number 85, 20th of December, number 85, Sunita, with an exclamation mark.
Yeah, you got to shout it. Sunita!
Sunita! Sunita!
Sunita!
What have you done?
What you done, Sunita?
Sunita, by Sunita.
By Sunita. By Sinitar.
Sinitar. Oh, that sounds like a bad guy in sort of Battle of the Planets.
Yeah, or in Thundercats. Sinitar, the ever-living.
Sinitar.
Can't do that voice. It makes my throat go funny.
Yeah, don't do it. Did it the other week. This was Simon Cowell and Saw, wasn't it?
Yeah. Simon Cowell got Saw, I think. But yeah Simon
probably.
Cowell and Stockakin and Waterman. What could go wrong, really?
What did she do?
So into the machine with Sunita.
So macho, didn't Toy Boy?
Yeah, so macho, Toy Boy, yeah. And it out pops this derivative pop guff. I thought she was quite a stunning looking person, in many ways, but this many of her hits were popular in certain niche audiences, I suppose. Maybe people with no ears or sense of hearing. But obviously were less popular were some of the B-sides, which she became quite famous for, including such hits as Tell Simon to Eat Shit, I'd Rather Punch a Goat Than Touch That, and the oddly titled I'm Not Eating That Sausage, So Stop Asking. Not sure what she's referring to there. We may never know. It's a mystery wrapped in time, space enigmas. We don't know. We don't know. Sunita!
We need the foreigner man to find out.
Eat that sausage, Sunita. I've told you I'm not eating it. I'm going to write a song about it.
It's gone off.
Going on the B-side, Sunita. Get on with it.
Who's that?
I don't know. I'm just, for some reason, I've gone into this weird EastEnders-based character for Sunita. I don't know.
Grant Mitchell produces Sunita. Or Phil.
He does now.
What are you doing, Sunita?
Phil and Grant Mitchell present.
Get that song sung.
Britain's artist, Sunita. Yeah. Anyway.
27th of December, one album, and I can't. This will climb. Number 98, Heaven on Earth by Belinda Carlisle.
Yes, Belinda Carlisle. I remember a certain friend of ours having a bit of an obsession with this particular person. I remember it very well. Lots of album buying and lots of buying of laser discs with this particular artist, and lots of repeated listenings and late night listenings, and doesn't bear thinking about.
That's enough detail.
I also remember another friend who claimed one of his mates slept with Belinda Carlisle when she toured with the Go-Go's. I'm all a lie, obviously.
Yeah.
So that was one of his claims, his friend's claims to fame. Can't corroborate any of that, and I'm pretty sure none of that's true, because I'm certain it isn't.
He also had a friend who worked at Nintendo and had a Nintendo 65 at this point as well.
But Belinda Carlisle was, this was a good album, very popular artist. I think she was married to the son of the guy who played Straker in Salem's Lot. That was her husband.
Straker? What?
Yeah.
James Mason?
Yeah, so James Mason's son was Belinda Carlisle's
James
husband.
Mason's son,
Yeah,
Bobby
so-
Mason.
Yeah, so he's like, put down that cross, Belinda. Face the
He went
master.
round,
Would you
put
stop
down your-
doing your dad's voice, you freak?
No, is your dad coming round? He is. Hello. Ciao.
Hello, Belinda. Ciao. Is this very nice and
Very
pleasant
nice.
here?
Put down that fork. We've finished eating.
You can do nothing against the dessert. Oh, stop. Will you? Come on, Dad. All right, you're not in Salem's Lot anymore, for goodness sakes.
Yes,
Jeez.
I can save it for you till Monday, this dessert.
What are you going to wear tomorrow? I've got 2 black suits. Oh, for goodness sake. Just let it go, you freak.
It was 9 years ago. 7 years ago, whatever.
It was a long time ago. It's all over with now.
Yeah.
It's all
Better
over
than
with.
him
You,
doing,
you do not own a shop that sells antiques. I told you. You're an actor. For God's sake.
It's better than him doing the Lolita, though.
Yes, for
suppose.
God's sake. Yeah, he did that first in the air, famously.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's not even go down that road. Goodness.
Let's not with mini pops in there. Would have been mentioned.
No, that's it. No.
Stop. Yeah, there you go. That's it. That's your music. It's a light music part because obviously nothing gets released in December because it's still
Because
Christmas.
they can do nothing against the master.
They can do nothing against now. I've got music 10.
Put down that single, buy the album.
Your single.
You know, I really want them to have used James Mason to advertise. Now that's what I call Music 10 now.
Is that single enough? Your single against the album.
It comes with 2 discs. God, my God, that's it. Now that's diverse humour, that
If you
is.
can't afford it today, I'll save it for you till Monday.
Only we could blend Salem's Lot into now that's what I call music advertising.
Yep. It's
what makes this podcast the great thing it is.
It's a very, very missing genre. There you go.
It is
That's your music.
underrepresented. Yes.
We've got another 6 games or so coming up in the next part. So we'll go for a break. We'll come back and we'll get into them. So please stay with us and we'll see you in a bit.
The novel Escape from the Commodore 64 by David Hearn is out now. Crash landing on a green planet full of vector graphics, can Sarah find a way to escape for real? Or is she stranded on a planet full of sun, sea, and chippy tea forever? Imagine finding yourself in a cinematic karate game, having to rescue a princess, or remain stuck under the run-stop key forever. What about finding yourself on a space freighter full of robots? Could you clear the decks? If you were transported back to a Wild West town, having to round up outlaws, could you survive until sunset? What if you were a wizard with a cat who must colour worlds? Could you beat the game, or would a virtual guitar solo announce your demise? Sarah might just be another visitor, but she doesn't want to stay a while, never mind forever. Available from Amazon and all good online retailers, discover if there's a way out in Escape from the Commodore 64. Visit davidhearnwriter.com to find out more.
Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you.
And we're back. We've got 6 or so games to get through. Our first one, Graham, let's get into them straight away. Graham, tell us all about what it's like out on the street when there's hassling going on. What's it like when there's street hassle?
Straight asshole. From Melbourne House, this weird game, coded by Andrew Davey and David Pentecost, graphics by Russell Comte, design is Andrew Davey, musician was Neil Brennan, and Beam Software, I think they're classed as, aren't they?
Yes, they are, yes.
So,
Beam.
but it's released to Melbourne House. I think they've been responsible for other Melbourne House games. They all kind of have this look, so I'm guessing Bazooka Bill's been on their horizon at some point, and the Asterix game and anything else that had big blocky sprites anyway. In this game, you play a school teacher come superhero called Underpant Man.
Blue, it's not Blue Underpant Man, is it?
Underpant Man. Your mission is to stroll the streets of the city turned bad and right the wrongs as you find them, armed with fists, adorned in gold pants and ready to punch some faces smooth. You head out on a quest to be the hero the city needs. And that's it. That's the story.
Yep, that's the story.
This is a side-scrolling beat-em-up that does not take itself too seriously and features large, bold, blocky sprites that have kind of become pretty much linked to this game team anyway. You control your play with the joystick and basically have to walk to the right, fighting the array of grannies, blind men, gorillas, dogs, and midgets. It's such an erratic bunch of things. As you patrol the city on this sort of quest, I guess you'd call it. Everything is fair game here, and you have some simple moves available that change with each level. You can always kick, duck, move left and right. And I say trip up, which is a bit odd because it looks like he sort of tickles their feet. I don't know what that move is.
Tickles the undercarriage.
Oh, but in level 1, you can also headbutt. In level 2, you can spin them around and twist their ears. Level 3, you can chest them. You can also, knee them. And the ante of the moves gets up. Eventually, you can sort of pick them up above your head and throw them and do all sorts of stuff like that. Now, they will try and whack you. You have an energy bar and they will whack you and hit you, and the dog will jump and bite you, and the gorilla will punch you. And when your energy runs out, one of your lives runs out. And if you run out of lives, then obviously it's the end. So, and as you go along, you can collect other things that will boost you and boost you up, boost your health. They tend to either drop bombs later as well, which are dead annoying because you've got to kick them off the screen. Otherwise, you lose sort of lots of health. Or you can pick up bits that will boost your health, which are like little floating love hearts with wings on. So, and that's kind of the game. It's just that, level after level after level, the background with different backgrounds and slight variations here and there of the main characters you're fighting. Everything's big here. The graphics are really big and bold. And it's got very much a cartoon sensibility about it. So there's lots of funny styling here. They're not gone for really big detailed anything. They've just gone for kind of silly sort of style. Your main character that you play looks like a dancer from the Trade nightclub in the late 90s. And I'll leave that with your imagination what that might look like. But it is just stupid, mindless fun, all said and done. Now, does that equate to £10 worth of fun? I don't know. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. There's not much to do in this game other than that, walking along. And you will have a laugh as you'd sort of, you screw the ears off a blind person or, kick a granny in the face. And I suppose, it's kind of taken it's just silly and it's done for silliness' sake. So there's nothing too serious. It is just a sort of cartoon, silly game. When you find yourself headbutting a gorilla and stuff like that, it's just whether you can tolerate and how long you can tolerate this game for. The graphics are okay in that sense that they are what they are. The sounds are okay. There's good thumping sounds and fighting sounds and clangs and blonks. The music's passable, actually. It's neither terrible nor so annoying that it kills you. It's just there. And it kind of drives the pace of the game along a bit. And you probably enjoy playing it, because I did. I mean, it's a bit of a guilty pleasure, this game. You start it and you think, God, this is crap. But then you just find yourself plodding along, periodically planting blind people into the ground, kicking a granny in the face, punching a gorilla out. And I found myself just laughing about this stupid banality and all. And I'm not sure what statement they're making with this game. When we sometimes when we analyse these games, we like to think of what statements are they making about the world in the 80s, that an underpanted man can just go down the street, a white guy, and just beat people up indiscriminately. And what does it all mean and what does it matter anyway? It's kind of like a crap blocky version of Falling Down 10 years before it came out, if you just wore gold pants. I don't know. There's nothing to this game other than that. You're either buying to look at it. It looks better and plays better than Bazooka Bill did. There isn't a complicated map to follow. There's no sense of trying to go backwards and forwards. You just walk in one direction and beat things up, and eventually you get to the end of that, and then you get to the next level, and then you get to the end of that. And the backgrounds are quite bold, but not massively varied, but they kind of work. It is exactly that. It's just no more complex. It got 80% in Zap. I don't know that, any old fairness. I mean, as much as it is fun for a while, I don't think it's 80% fun. I wouldn't have put it that high. This is putting it in nearly the same realms as some of the other beat 'em ups that we've seen and some of the other more sort of complicated games. I actually enjoyed this more than Fist 2, which says a lot about me, I think, more than Fist 2. But it is just mindless, stupid entertainment. And it passed an afternoon. It would be better at budget price, and then I could really forgive it. But at a full price game for this, I just don't think there's enough game in it, really. After you've got through the jokes and you've done all the moves, I don't really know what's left after that. Not much. So it was all right, I suppose. I've played a lot worse, At least it wasn't a licensed version of something anyway. So what about you? I don't know. It was all right, but what about you?
Yeah. Can you get by on a stupid sense of humour, stupid premise and poor gameplay? I don't think you can. Not really. I thought this was Fist 2 and Fighting Warrior through the lens of absurdist comedy.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
If you want to squeeze your town, your golden pants, beating up blind people, grannies, apes and dogs. So, like most of these things, though, I just found the joke wore thin quickly. And then the problem is with the gameplay is you're left with the game to play, because the joke is, okay, it is amusing, rubbing, and finding the new moves in the levels and stuff. And okay, yes, okay. But essentially, it's a Kung Fu Master clone, isn't it? It's just a Kung Fu Master.
Yeah, of that life, yeah.
Coming from both sides. But for me, if they're taking elements from the game we looked at last week, Renegade, added some depth to the screen, this would have been better. Because the problem with this is it has the slowness of moves from Renegade, but the enemies of Kung Fu Master in the way they come up from both sides. So the issue is that you need the speed of moves from Kung Fu Master to deal with the enemies on a 2D plane, and it doesn't have that. So you're slow and you're cumbersome. Each move takes quite a while. It's far too easy to get beaten from either side and be dead before you know it. If you had depth in the screen, you can move out the way a bit. Like Renegade, you can manage the enemies better with the slowness of your moves. As it is, it goes very frustrating. But I found it got very frustrating very quickly. It also has the issue that enemies can walk on together from a side, but your kick will only hit one of them. And the second one of them will be able to hit you with impunity, and your health is quickly whittled away.
And when they whack you, they really whack you as well.
Yeah, exactly. The slowness of the moves is also a problem when trying to catch the bloody heart to get your health back. It's so frustrating to see a heart just float away. You're like, oh, for God's sake. And when you walk into it, I don't know why it's not just activated by walking into it. I just found this too slow and cumbersome for the style of game it is. And, we've seen Renegade the other week, and that's been in the arcade for a while. So this kind of brawler could work. I don't mind it. I just wish they'd not done it on a 2D plane and given you the depth of the Renegade style. And I think if they'd have done that, you'd have had a much, much better game because you could manage the world and the enemies better. As it is, you can't dodge anything. The jump is superfluously pointless, I found. So, I don't know. It's stupid. It's so stupid, this game.
It is just stupid.
It is. And I get it why people like it because of its stupidity and its ridiculousness and its brazen commitment to that cause. But playing it is, I don't know, I didn't enjoy playing it very much. And it's a game, isn't it? So it needs to play well. That's what I thought.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Anything else to say on that one?
No, I mean, it's there's nothing really there, is there? I mean,
no.
I had fun doing the one thing that you do in the game, and yeah, it made me chuckle a bit, but like I said, for £10, I don't know how long that's going to last me.
No.
And it's hard. I mean, for some reason, I must have been really good at this because I got straight to level 4 in the first sit-down play of it. I never had any of those. But that is just, it's completely hit and miss. I maybe just didn't get the number of characters on the screen that you did. It's probably something as random as that.
Could be.
And I found the dogs more annoying than any other character in it because you can't actually, you have to sort of wait till they bark and then run over and tickle them. And why am I even thinking about it? It's stupid.
It's what it is, yeah.
The tactics to this game, it's stupid.
It is stupid. Let's move on into something much more cerebral. Because our next one is Computer Scrabble Deluxe. This was £13. It got no rating, but it did get a sizzler. A sizzler. All right, so I love Scrabble, so sit down and get ready. It's the version of very popular and evergreen board game Scrabble, okay? So let's talk about Scrabble. Because when it comes down to it, I love it. So I had a route around. So I never knew much about where Scrabble came from or anything. So I did a bit of digging. And Scrabble was originally designed in 1938 by Alfred Mosher Butts. Great name. Basing it on a previous game of his, which was called Lexico. So in this, when he updated it in 1938, he introduced the 15 by 15 board design and the crossword style of play. And he called the game Crisscross Words.
Makes sense.
So close to catchiness. So he made some boards himself, but it didn't take off. And in 1931, Butts had previously written a paper called The Study of Games, where he spoke of 3 types of games: board, number games, so for cards and dice, and letter games. And this paper led him to creating Lexico, and then led him on to creating Crisscross Words. So he was, one of the founding fathers of sort of game design theory, which is quite interesting. So anyway, in 1948, James Brunot, who owned a copy of Crisscross Words, bought the rights to produce the game in exchange for granting Butts a royalty on each copy sold. Brunot simplified the board, so where the multiplier tiles are, and also changed the name to Scrabble. So in the first year, they made 2,400 sets that they lost money. But it was apocryphally not until 1952 when Jack Strauss, who was the president of Macy's at the time, he played the game while on holiday. When he got back, he was surprised to see that his store was not selling it. Placed a massive order. That was that. It was the must-have board game for the season. And the rest is history, as they say. So what is Scrabble? So if you don't know, it's a 15 by 15 grid. There's a collection of 100 tiles, 98 having letters on them and 2 being blank. Letters on the tiles appear in relation to how often they're used in the English language, so loads of E's and A's, but only one Z, J, Q, and X, and ranges in between. Each letter has a number attached to it in relation to its commonality as well, with rarer letters having higher numbers. Each player picks 7 tiles at random, and they have to make a word from them. Whoever goes first places their word on the board, and then from then on, each word placed must connect to existing words on the board, either by using a letter in an existing word or by creating a new word, usually of 2 letters, alongside it. The board itself has 4 types of special squares, which are double and triple letter scores and double and triple word scores. Once a word has been placed, you add up all the numbers in the word put down and any new ones created, work out any multipliers, and that's your score. Play then moves to the next player, and you continue until you're out of tiles, and whoever has the best score is the winner. Right, there you go. That's Scrabble in a nutshell. Scrabble, for me, works because of its combination of non-deterministic gameplay and combination of luck, skill, and knowledge. It's a game that is genuinely built to not just appeal to your knowledge, but improve your vocabulary. It is, at its very essence, edutainment, but does it by hiding that facet of the game to make it almost subconsciously buried in there. It's not a game you play with thinking, I'm going to learn something, but you do. So this version, I thought this version was pretty good. Aside from the visual side of things, we'll come to that in a moment. It has a wealth of options, so you can play any combination of 2 to 4 players, so 2 humans, humans, 1 human and 2 computer players, 3 humans and 1 computer, and so on and so on. The computer player can be put at any skill level from 1 to 8, and that's individual. So if you have you versus 3 other computer players, you can put them all at different skill levels. At levels 1 to 4, the computer will play a fairly basic game, but from 5 to 8, it will use the 2-letter adjunctive words and provides a real challenge. So they'll be putting stuff along it to create me and mess or all that kind of stuff. You can opt, there's loads of options. You can opt to always see the letters of everyone or hide them. And you can even set a timer for each go as well. So like speed Scrabble. You can opt to see the computer thinking, and you can change the speed of tile placement from instant to slow, or 0 to 9. 0 is they just appear. 9, they take a while to appear. You can save a game and reload it. And all the options of Scrabble, such as pass, challenge, change your letters, are present and correct. It's Scrabble. The computer plays a decent game as well, and all the facets of the board are here. The only issue with this version is the monochromatic. It's monochromatic, and I wonder if this is to keep it high res. I don't know if it's something along that. And the use of color was limited, but it does make the game look a bit drab. I mean, the Scrabble board is not. It is what it is. It's sort of cream color with pinks and blues and reds and blues for the different tiles. Here, they just use character symbols within each one to represent the different kind of things. And if you know where they are, it's fine, but it takes a little bit of getting used to. The game plays really easily. You simply type out the word, and if you've got the letters to make it up, it goes, and it says, right, where do you want to put it? So you move the cursor to where you wish to place it using the cursor keys, and you press A or D to place it across or down, and that's about it. I thought this was a really good version of Scrabble. Being able to play it in one player is, I guess, its main draw, because you can't really do that with the board game. But would you choose this over the board game itself? Probably not, I guess. I don't know. But if you want some practice and to play against others, and then you don't have anyone to play against, then maybe this will scratch that itch, and you probably will like it. There's loads of Scrabble games out there now, tons of them on mobile, and it's massive. I'm not sure, visuals aside, they could have done anything more with this. It's still Scrabble, so I just really liked it because it's Scrabble. It was made by Mike Montgomery, and if you don't know who Mike Montgomery, he went to work on loads of things like Speedball 2, all the way up to Project Cars, and he was one of the co-founders of the Bitmap brothers. Thought that was quite interesting. He started out doing this Scrabble version. I thought this was really good, impressive. See why it got Sizzler, because it's a really good version of Scrabble. If you like Scrabble, you're going to like this, I think, because it offers that one-player mode, which obviously board game Scrabble does not. What about you? Did you enjoy your time playing a bit of Scrabble?
It's all right. Scrabble. No, it was all right. Graphics are said it's by the Gang of Five on the game.
Yeah, I saw that as well, but
I don't know what that means.
No, I don't either. There's not much of the way of graphics in it.
I think that my main argument here is that the only case to have this is if you want to practice Scrabble. That's where it's a good practice engine. And that's the only reason you'd have it. But it's $12.95, which is a lot. That would be probably slightly more expensive at this point than actual Scrabble. So I suppose if you like Scrabble, you're going to have both, really. You might have a computer version so you can just play one player, but like having a bridge version of Bridge where you can play other players and practice bridge and stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. I thought it was very basic looking, but it does the job. It felt a bit over clicky as well. Clearly there's a bit of UI interface design needed because it is a bit over clicky.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressing keys to continue, isn't there?
Yeah, there just seems to be a lot of that, but once you're over that and you're into the game, aren't you? I had a decent game of Scrabble against a couple of computer opponents. I enjoyed it. I quite like Scrabble, so yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect, but it's just
I think it's a bit harsh giving it no rating. I think that's just, I don't like it when they do that. Rate it. It's a game.
It is a game, yeah.
And you can't just give it no rating. Oh, sorry, these games are unrateable. It's like, it's a game. Yeah. Is it enjoyable? It works to the same parameters as all games. So you don't have to compare it, in that way, but you do have to rate it as a game. I
mean, its graphics would be functional. There's not much sound, but playability and lastability would be
and all the options
endless.
Would give it, absolutely give it lots of. It would have scored pretty well. I'd have given this a decent score. I mean, it got a Sizzler, so it's got to be over the 80s and 80s to 90s, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, I enjoyed my time with it, as I'm sure you did. It's in that way that I was able to do things with Scrabble that I can't do with the board game, which is if I'm on my own, I can't just sit down for it. It's a very lonely affair if you're playing solo Scrabble in the board game.
It is. You've really got to move around the table all the time.
Oh.
And you always know what the other players have got.
Yeah.
I suppose that's one of the things about this as well. If you do show all the things, but you have to tell everyone, turn away from the screen, turn away, don't see my letters.
Yeah, it would have to be that. But I think you would use this more for practice, a bit like people when they bought those chess games.
Yeah.
You use it to practice your game of chess. You don't necessarily look at it as
when I played it as well, when I played it against the level 8s, it came up with some interesting words. I was like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah, challenge.
I did challenge, but they were like, I think the challenge is just you have to sort of say if it's all right. There's also...
There's no such word as Zubo. What are you talking about? Computers crashed. Erase. No,
yeah. And I just Scrabble in it, you put it all against level 8 and it all works. Yeah, good game. I liked it. Scrabble. Let's move on. Because our next one, I'm going to think, not going to be so good. Graham, tell us how to be a complete bastard.
Okay, £10 for this. 33%. Developed by Sentient Software for Virgin Interactive. And I don't know much about the How to Be a Complete Bastard book of which this is based. I'd never owned it, but it was some kind of extension of the Ade Edmondson character, Sir Adrian Dangerous, which is one of the Dangerous brothers, wasn't it? So it was.
I think so, yeah.
Then that was a TV and stage show that he performed with Rick Mayall, which contained a selection of ways to become a complete bastard to those around you. That was part of the shtick of that. So in this game, Sir Adrian Dangerous, or we'll just call him Ade, for the simplicity's sake, because it could all get complicated here. You've successfully crashed a yuppie party. Now, this game's heart is clearly in the 80s, very much so.
Very much
Whereas
so.
like a yuppie, which is on the posh side of town. And to succeed in the game, you've got to actually light up the phrase complete bastard by doing lots of stupid tasks, which will inevitably incapacitate the guests by the end of the party, or actually get them to leave is the name here. And you do that in all sorts of deviant, horrible ways, thereby building up bastard points as you ply through the game, completing horribly offensive things to upset people to get them out of the party so you can light up your lights. That's pretty much it. In the game itself, and I'm going to cover the ridiculous way this game works in a minute, but you have to search through the furnishings and fittings, find objects that will enable you to play these stupid jokes and create havoc, I guess. You view the screen on this split level thing. Again, I'm going to come back to that actually, because I just want to sort of go through because there's the controls of this and the bastard vision, which is just what they call it in the instructions, is just awful in this. But so you control the character by walking around, and essentially you've got to sort of search things. And the more you search things, you can search things, and some of those things will be things that you can make into jokes. So the things that you can eat, and it will build up your fart gas, so you can fart, and you press the F key to pass wind, and that can upset people. And the idea is that you build up on each side of the screen. You've got both a weeometer and a drunkometer, because periodically you can find things you can drink. And the more drink you get, the more drunk you become, and the more drunk you become, the more obnoxious you become. But also, you then need to wee, and you can urinate in the room in front of people if you want to do that, or to find a toilet and do things like that. So you can do that, or if you find another person there, you can do that and relieve yourself. And it's horrible, and that's the whole point of the game, is to be as horrible as possible. You can also, as you drink, your level of your drunkometer changes. And so some of your activities can only be carried out when you're actually sober enough to do it. Otherwise, when you're inebriated, it doesn't work. You've also got the fartometer. I can't believe I'm saying these phrases. And the smellometer. So eating anything that you find increases the level of your fartometer, but pressing F will obviously emit that fart. And then the smellometer gives a general condition of your body odor. So as you pass gas, obviously you're upsetting more people. And if all four of the meters should reach their maximum levels at the same time, you basically shit yourself in the game. It says dire consequences, but you actually just do a shit.
Diarrhea consequences.
Yeah, exactly. So between all of the weeometer and everything else, you get your bastard points, which go up and down depending on how bastardly you are being in the game. So anything cowardly or effeminate, which I think is shocking, and that's the phrase they use in the instructions as well, I'm afraid to say, is classed as will lose you points, which is a bit off, isn't it? Extremely bastardly actions will cause one of the guests to leave, and that will light up the letters in name. But sometimes the letters only light up semi-permanently, sometimes they light up permanently, and some of them have got hyphens, so you've got to light them both up at the same time. You can't eat any cigarettes that you would, or coleslaw or burgers, sausage or chips, and you're not allowed to pass gas in the kitchen. So there's some rules about where you can and can't do things. You can't drink the weed killer, for example, because it kills you. You can't eat pills because it kills you. Or if you leave them do something wrong, like bring out the chainsaw or razor blades, you can kill the guests. Again, big no-no. And you end up getting locked up. There's also a computer in there in one of the rooms, and if you reset the computer, it actually resets your Commodore 64 for real. So it just quits you out of the game, which is really stupid, isn't it?
Does it?
It does, yeah.
That's a terrible idea.
So that's the idea of the game. And this plays out over 2 screens in what they called Bastard Vision. So not only is this complicated to explain, it's also horrible to actually endure in the game, because the idea of this view is that you have a side view and a front to back view of Ade's character in any given space. So you can see everything in the room, essentially, is the plan. It doesn't work, though. This is not a way to convey 3D space in 2D. Now, trying to explain this is actually like trying to explain the plot of Tenet, the film Tenet. Because you can actually rotate
I'm glad you got this
screen. You can rotate the screen view on either of those screens with the 1 and 2 key. So you can just rotate them in 90 degrees, which inevitably means you get confused about what the hell you're looking at, what direction you're facing. So I found myself at one point walking to the left on the top screen and walking to the right on the bottom screen.
Yep.
Which it started to hurt my brain. And all I'm wanting to do is walk around and search things, a bit like you would in Mission Impossible.
Yeah, Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Yeah, in any of those games. So you don't need this stupid system. I don't know what on earth possessed them to put it in. So you've actually got a lot of keyboard controls to think about. So you can't just walk left and right. You've got F to fart. Then you've got Q and A to select different options. And the space bar is your action button. Then you've got 1 and 2 to rotate your screen. And E and B, and all these different controls and characters. All of the while, you're trying to think of inventive ways that these things will work together or will enable you to become and do these obnoxious things that you're meant to be doing or increase your fart meter or do all of those things. But you won't want to do that because it's so slow. The visuals are really badly drawn. So the character that you play is badly drawn in a badly drawn background, of which none of it makes any sense directionally. So you have no idea where you're heading. It's just meant to be a party. It doesn't have to be this weird view at all. There's no rhyme or reason for this. So they've just gone completely control bonkers and it makes no sense. And I think that's because they had no idea what they were doing. This could have worked like Jack the Nipper. Jack the Nipper is essentially this game where you got to run around, do naughty stuff and, cause chaos. That was Jack the Nipper. But what they didn't do in Jack the Nipper was create a bilateral view of the action where you can rotate the screen any time for no reason whatsoever. None. There's loads of things you can do in this game, but you'll never get to do them or find them because I found even just searching for things really difficult because finding yourself in a position where you're next to something is like trying to navigate something from two different views that make no sense.
Yep.
And you end up inevitably getting lost. So I just thought this was piss poor all around. It's just terrible. It's a really bad game based on probably a fairly offensive IP, really, that really doesn't have any place in a kid's game, I don't think. And if you're going to do it like this, what is there? I mean, this is the equivalent of that Russ Abbott game that made no sense. This is just awful.
Oh, that's the Basildon Bond.
Yeah, exactly. In the sense that was a game that just had loads of stuff thrown in that didn't make any sense to be there anyway. This is the same thing. So you've got a character which kind of looks a bit like Aid Edmondson, maybe, if you really squint, and is tiny but slow and badly animated. And you're meant to be at a party, which is equally slow and badly animated. And why, if you're at a party, why can't you just pick things up and quickly go back? The whole idea of this is that in order for this to be fun, you'd have to be able to go and do things quickly and it's fun, and then go and do something else that's fun. And get through those things in a fairly speedy way. If you're slowly wandering around, opening doors, there's nothing in there, opening this, there's nothing there. Oh, look, I've found a bottle of beer, drink that. Oh, my fartometer's gone up. It is rubbish. This game is rubbish. So you're mostly wandering around, trying to navigate the most confusing control system I think we've ever come across in a C64 game, and the worst.
Yeah, I think it's outdone. What was that dungeon crawling one where you always entered the screen from the bottom left?
I think it has because
Spell
once you change,
was it?
Because there's no indication, by the way, of when you rotated the view that what you've rotated it to.
Yeah,
and you can rotate both views. So it's like, why? Why? What purpose does that serve? What purpose does it serve for me to rotate my view so that I can? It just doesn't make any sense anyway, and it's neither is it clever programming or anything else. I didn't want to find out anymore once I'd sort of started to navigate this. I imagine even mapping this game would be a nightmare. Yeah. Because you probably go circles about 50 times and you wouldn't know where you were. Why not just walk left and right and just explore things like that? Like pretty much every other game has in the history of games up to this point. I mean, even Death Wish 3 had a crap system of navigation, but at least the basic tenet was left-right. You didn't have dual screens with rotational capability. Stupid. I hated this game. I really hated everything about it. I didn't get the jokes. They weren't very funny. The controls were awful. The graphics are terrible. The navigation systems is just some kind of satanic nightmare. Everything about this was crap. And it was one great big joke that didn't work. It fell flat on its face, which is a shame because the actual stuff that it's based on was probably pretty funny, albeit at that time. It's dated badly, this kind of comedy. And when you're using, like, if your character's girly or effeminate, then you're going to get punished for it. We've moved on a lot since then in the world.
Yeah.
So this has not only bad taste in the mouth from all of that kind of stuff, but it's just crap. Absolute crap. And it got a wholesome 33%. Be brave. I say it again. I've said it many times. Be brave. Give it what it deserves. A big fat 0. It was crap. And for full price, forget it. Forget it. Demons out is my final comment.
Merrin.
What about you?
Oh, the viewpoint. That's what my first comment. Why did anyone think that viewpoint was a good idea? Why did you need to represent anything in some weird 2-camera view split screen rotational way? I don't know. It took me so long to walk through a door.
Yeah, same.
I was like, which way am I walking? Where am I going? Why am I going really slowly in that direction? But what's A? Oh, just do it like Joe Blade that we saw the other week or something like that. Anything. Aside from that, it looks awful, plays turgidly, it's terrible sound. The entire concept doesn't work in video game form. comedy, and we may see a different that next week, but comedy's hard to do in games. And this kind of infantile comedy works in the real world back then with the Dangerous Brothers, the Young Ones, and that anarchic style. Because it's fast and it's kind of like, oh my God, that was the thing about the Dangerous Brothers. Like, oh my, he's on fire. Jesus. Yeah, you never knew what to expect. But here, it's so slow and stilted and unfunny. Comedy, as we know, is all in the delivery. It's all in the timing. And when this moves at a dead slow treacle speed, split screen nightmare vision, the entire point of the game is lost. Awful, pointless license drivel. Awful. Just didn't understand it. Didn't understand where this came from or why anyone thought this would be a good idea. Was the book by Virgin? Was it reduced? So it was just kind of a multimedia sort of assault.
Yeah, probably was.
So there was like, there's this and there'll be the tour and blah, blah, blah. And then the game and no, this is just crap. Ugh. It's trading on that name, isn't it? Ooh, bastard. Ooh.
Yeah. Like you say, that you exactly and rightly say, funny on TV, not a game though. Not a game to be funny about, is it? Not really funny at all.
No. There's not many games that pull off comedy, and they certainly don't do it like this. Walking around farting, it's like, oh, God's sake.
No, like I said, Jack the Nipper did it better, and we didn't really like that.
No, we didn't. But yes, Jack the Nipper is a better example of something where you're doing naughty things for a better reason. You're a naughty little nipper.
Yep.
Anywho, there we go. That's how to be a complete bastard. Rubbish. How to be completely rubbish, more like. Let's move on. It really is license heavy.
It is.
Street Hassle is the only original game.
I don't know. I feel like I'm being teabagged by all these license games.
We've got another one coming up. Let's move into it. We've got another arcade conversion. This is the arcade conversion of Super Sprint. So what's Super Sprint? So Super Sprint is another arcade game. We've had Indiana Jones from Atari. This game again lent upon their desire for different inputs from the standard joystick and button configuration of most arcade games. So like Paperboy and its handlebars, Marble Madness and its trackball, Super Sprint was built around having multiple steering wheels on the cabinet, all of which can and nay must be spun around with some vigor to get around the corners of the tracks you have to navigate. This was a real fling. You played it in the arcade, yeah? You had to really twang and tang, and it was.
They got this in the arcade club, I think, in Bury.
Yeah, really good. So this was a 3-player game in the arcade as well. So there was 3 of you just twanging these steering wheels around when you got 3 you play it. It was great fun. This was originally designed in the arcade by Robert Weatherby and Kelly Turner. So I don't know who did the conversion. I might have noted it down. I have. The game was a spiritual continuation of old top-down arcade races like Grand Track 10 and the Sprint series of games from the 70s. If you go back and look for them, you can find some of them. They're like really old, chunky bit, graphics. They're sort of what's seen as the granddaddy of like top-down racers and racing games. So all the action in these kind of games happens on a single screen, and the objective is to do several laps of the course and win the race. So the viewpoint is very different to a traditional racer where we saw something like Buggy Boy, which is like you're behind the vehicle 3D view. The Sprint games, Grand Track 10, you can see the screen, so it's a top-down view. You've seen this already. This was released in 1986, and we've seen games that do this already on the C64, like BMX Simulator. That was that took a lot of influence from this. Was clearly inspired by this. But now, in 1987 and 97, we have the official conversion. The objective of the game is to do several laps, win the race, when finishing first place. This version was programmed by Catalyst coders. Don't know who they are, but they also do Flying Shark, which I think we get at the beginning of next year. The visuals by Mark Jones. Now, Mark Jones was responsible for Jailbreak, but he also did Arkanoid, so not so bad. Okay. And he'll go on to do R-Type, so,
that's pretty good.
We may forgive him for Jailbreak, and this are all right as well. So, as I said, the arcade game is a 3-player game, but obviously the C64 has been reduced to a 2-player game. You still have the 3 cars on track, though, so at least they've kept that. There was another one, Quartet, which you'd only have 2 players, but, obviously that didn't lose it. But this keeps the 3 cars on track. Just there's always at least one controlled by the computer. So it's either 1 against 2 or 2 humans against 1 computer game. The game is full price. As I've noted, it's $9.99, as all arcade conversions are, because they have to be. And it's been released by Electric Dreams. Anyway, once the game loads, you can choose to play 1 or 2 players by rotating the steering wheel icon at the number of players required. That's just like the arcade game, really. I remember that choice. I think it was in the arcade game. Once done, I like the slow animation of the hand giving you the thumbs up comes out from the car. Once done, you can pick which of the first 4 tracks you wish to race on by again rotating the steering wheel to pick the track. They're in the basically track 1 is top left, right. There's 4 tracks: top left, top right, bottom left. And you pick which one you want. Do that, and it's into the game. And the first impressions are actually pretty good. This actually looks like it's pared back, obviously. It looks like Super Sprint. The cars are okay. They're a little indistinct, a little blocky, but you can tell they're all right. And when they're actually racing, they're okay. Nice rotational. They're all right. And there's a red, blue, and yellow card. It's easy to tell them apart. The track, it looks like Super Sprint. Got fairly nice shading and good sense of depth to it. It looks okay. Super Sprint was never a brilliant looker in the arcade. It had a certain style to it. And this actually manages to replicate that okay, I thought. The problem is once the race starts, the main issue arises. And that is that this has lost all the oomph of the arcade controls. And let's face it, it's to be expected. There's simply no way to transpose spinning that wheel at speed, really trying it around more than 180 degrees. You're really trying it around to go around the corners. And the pleasure of doing that into just simply moving a joystick left or right and a digital input. There just isn't. You can't do it. So I don't know. You use fire button to speed up and let go, slow down, and it's left and right to steer, and that's kind of it. But it is just you steer at increments. You don't speed up. You can't do that twang. So what we're left with, it's just a rather dull affair. All the excitement of the controls, and that's where the excitement of the race came from. Learning how to spin those cars around the corners. It's been removed, and then you realise that the game doesn't work or feel right. It don't feel right without it. It's missing. There's nothing wrong with this conversion. Although the music does great after a while, and it feels strangely out of place. It's weird music in the game. I don't know if it's from the arcade, but it feels strangely out of place. But there's nothing wrong with the conversion beyond the fact that they simply couldn't replicate the arcade game's main draw, those steering wheels. So I'm not sure if there were other racing games, sort of traditional style racing games in the arcade at this point. There were, obviously, and some of them may have had steering wheels, but nothing like the way this controls. And without that, this feels empty. You still collect spanners. There's spanners on the track, and those allow you to increase your stats between the races, so you can better grip, more speed, better top speed, better acceleration, that sort of thing. And you can still approach the courses in any order, so that's all there. So you can there's 8 courses to do, and when you've done the first 4, that sort of thing. So there are all the shortcuts and hazards present from the arcade game. So you've got the oil spills, the water, the tornadoes, the shortcuts in the ramp that open and close if you can time them right. The first 4, and the first 4 courses are complete. Once they're complete, the second 4, so there's 8 tracks, can be accessed, and they get harder and trickier as you go through them. But it just doesn't feel like Super Sprint. It looks like it, but it doesn't feel like it. And so, like we said about all those other games, Paperboy, Marble Madness, Gauntlets, all those kind of things, what we said about them, you're left with a version of the original that looks like it could be okay, but upon playing, you soon realise that the crucial element of what made this special in the arcade, and Cards and Tables, I really like Super Sprint in the arcade. It's just completely lost. And for me, this is a good attempt that really was never going to capture the arcade due to the inherent hardware limitations. Same what we said about Paperboy and Marble Madness, things like that. It's a bit of a shame, but you're just never going to get the Super Sprint feel from it. You can't do it. What about you? What did you think?
I never really liked the arcade Super Sprint. I thought it was boring. This thing comes along, kind of looks the part, really. It's, like you said, it's like a toned down version of the same thing. My main problem with this was, one, the controls do lack the whatever fun you can get from spinning the steering wheel like a maniac in the arcade. But without that, you are just it's a bit dull. The bugs in the game, what did my head in? There were so many bugs in this game.
It said that, but I never came across any. So
I mean, I at one point just flew off. I just suddenly span off the track for no reason loads of times. If you are minorly disadvantaged in any way, you will never be able to catch up the CPU players because they never make a mistake. So you are punished. So if you make one mistake, maybe you can catch them up. You make 2, you're done on any race. So you can never really win if you've made a couple of errors. You can't catch them back up. It's not possible. The spanners were hit and miss. Sometimes I collect spanners and didn't get them awarded to me when I finished the track, so I couldn't upgrade my car.
No, right, okay.
Sometimes like I said, you just span off the track for no reason. Or if you went through some of where the gates open, you could sneak through. You hit them anyway, even though they were open. There was just loads and loads of bugs that popped up, and it ruined it. It ruined what could have been an okay variant of the game. I mean, it kind of looked like a basic version, all right, and but it would be playable. But for those bugs, it just ruined it for me. And I'm like, well, I didn't really like it anyway. But this sealed the deal. Just go and get BMX Simulator for £2 because it's not buggy and it works and it's better than this.
It is better because it's built for these controls. It works better.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the sadness, really. Had those bugs not been in it, I might have had a bit more fun with that because it's not terrible to play. It's just like you say, it's not as frantic as the arcade. And you could have really thought about that and thought, do you know what? We haven't got that spinning. What frantic things can we add to this to make it a bit better? And maybe that's what they tried, but the bugs, they did my head in. And in the end, I was like, I've had enough. I just had enough of it in the end. I'd started another game. I'd reloaded it thinking maybe it was just a quirk or something. Reloaded it, went to play it, went around the first bend, and then I was moving the joystick, but it just went in one continuous direction, just crashed, and then just span off in the wrong direction, and I couldn't regain control of it. It just stopped functioning, and that was the end of that. So I was like, no more now, done.
Fair enough.
Yep.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I must have got lucky. I didn't really experience any of that. The only thing the other thing I would note, sort of thing, is that the bouncing off the sides is not always logical. You would just bounce in a direction that was like, why am I facing that way?
Yep, which is a bit odd.
Yeah, I did actually find it quite easy after a while.
Yeah. So once you got used to it, if you didn't encounter any bugs, you could get around pretty easily. It wasn't particularly challenging in actuality.
No.
And that, again, is not something that's you could ever say about the arcade. So
no, I mean, you could do it like what Ridge Race used to do. So let go of the fire button, start turning, and then hold the fire button, which creates drift, faster thingy, and then
maybe they could have added some of that stuff, but
they didn't.
Nope.
They did not. So let's move along. Let's sprint away from that one and into our second to last game. And we've got a ball game, Microball. Graham, you want to tell us all about Microball? Probably not a lot to tell you, but
no, there isn't a great. This Microball is from Steve Evans. That's the guy that made Who Dares Wins 1 and 2. It's a pinball game, or a digital pinball game. Historically, they don't do very well for me, these, because I like real pinball games a lot.
Yes, you do.
And so they have to offer quite a lot in terms of, even if the physics isn't great, and in this one it isn't great, but it's not bad, but it's got to offer more game. You've got to have more lights and more action and just more stuff for it to ping around and do stuff. You don't get that here. So while the graphics here are better than the average ones that we've seen so far, and I can't think of the other pinball games we've seen, but
Slamball, I think, is the only one I seem to remember.
Yeah, and I think for me, because I know later down the line you get amazing pinball games on the Amiga and stuff, so Pinball Dreams and things like that come later down the line. So I'm not comparing it to that, but what I'm saying is that he's tried to up the ante on the things that matter in this, and that's fair. And it is a bit more polished, and it is £2, so it's a wholesomely £2. So all right. But the physics isn't quite there here. The ball is still a little bit floaty. Remember that it's a heavy ball inside of a pinball, and this sort of the angle of the slope of the pinball is kind of important, because when it's aiming, when it's careering towards your flappers, paddles, whatever you want to call them. Flippers. And you hit it, if you hit it pretty hard, you're going to get a good chunk of inertia from that. It's going to fling that ball around. And there is a little bit of that in this, but it's very hit and miss about how it operates that way. So it seemed to be more, I don't know, I seem to find, for me, that sometimes you'd press it and it would hit the ball quite well. Other times it just didn't seem to do anything. And yet the impact should have been in the same way. And it's just, I think the physics not quite being there. The look and feel of it was okay, lit up, in the way that pinballs do. But there's not much pinball to it. There's the kind of classic letters to light up and a few things to bounce off and a few side panels and a few things to knock down. But that's all there is. It need these kind of pinball games to work really well. They need a big theme around them. All the good ones, even the Microsoft free one that came with Windows. We had that rocket ship, and there's just things you can do. And if you get the certain score, then things launch, and you get the multipliers and the multiples, and that's why arcade pinballs are really good, because they have all of that. You take that away to the basic core pinball, well, it's not much to it. But this is £2. So for £2, I've said that, all right, it's not crap, it's passable. Physics is better than we've seen before, but I think really you'd have to be a big pinball fan to go for it. But £2, it's got 73%. All right, I'll go for that. I don't know how much time it would have passed for me, really. I might have ended up with it as a present, and because it was no secret that I quite like pinball, so if I did, I probably would have played it every now and again. I would never have really sort of stuck at it though, because there's not much more to it than after a few goes, you've kind of done everything. What about you?
I'm pretty much the same, really. Yeah, budget pinball, one table, 4 players, questionable physics. It's a 664 pinball simulator. It's budget pinball, but even for £2, I don't think this would hold your interest for very long. No. Yeah, you can have 4 players on it, but you need 4 other people. I suppose you play it on your own, 4 players. But I like the presentation of the font for the scores. Yeah, but it felt, as you rightly noted, very bare bones, and it does that thing that I don't like, where you can only have one flipper up at any one moment.
Yeah, that's really weird. That,
and I really hate that in pinball games. I don't know why that is implemented. But there's no point for that, especially when you're using the 2 shift keys and space.
Yes. I mean, even by now as well, proper pinballs had multiple
flippers
in. Yeah, little ones at the top, and there's no reason why you can't have that in this game.
No. Anyway, it's little pinball.
Yeah.
Little pinball, whatever. Nothing much more to this. I guess if you really, really like seeing scores go up, you may get something from this. Otherwise, meh. Yeah. It's budget. It's budget one table pinball.
Yeah, there's better budget games to play that are more fun.
Yeah, there are. That's that one. Let's move along. Got one game left, and Graham, are going to come to you again on this one. So before we talk about where this came from, can you tell us all about Heli Squad?
This is your game. You made Heli Squad.
I did make Heli Squad.
You made Heli Squad. How old was you when you made it, actually? Now, I don't know much about when you made it. I know you made it, but I don't know much about how you
I'd
made
been
it.
16.
So, and it's in the mould of, and we mentioned this other game before, didn't we? The shoot 'em up that it was.
Tiger Heli.
Tiger Heli, yeah. It's a top-down shoot 'em up
Squad.
where you've got a helicopter making your way through the waves of enemy patterns and things to shoot. I don't know, was there a goal to it? Because I never actually reached the end of what you did. I just played it and died eventually because it was quite hard.
It is
Because
right.
it's really hard. But it was constructed, of course, with the shoot 'em up construction kit. Now, I think it's amazing that you made that game, because learning to code, machine code, and doing all of those things that would have been required to make games is hard. So what have you got in your game? You've got a decent helicopter sprite, you've got nice background, you've got really good scrolling action, you've got waves of enemies coming in, you've got ground-based things, weird shaped ground-based things, but they are there.
Oh, what? They're the gun turrets. They're the gun turrets.
But what it is as much as it might be a bit bare bones, and no one's denying that as a 16-year-old, you're going to go into creating QDEX level sprites or anything like that, or Delta level sprites, you did what you could do, and they actually function perfectly well in that game. It's a single sprite for the main player, isn't it?
Yes.
And then the enemy sprites come and sort of top down, you're going bottom up and you're just shooting at them. You can shoot at a good rate of knots. There's no upgrades or anything like that. You can just shoot and blow things up. But there's all animations for everything. Complete animations for the helicopter, complete animations for explosions. It's all there.
Like on the helicopter, it's got the back rotor thing going around as well.
Yeah, exactly. And you as you go on, you're gaining a score, which the game keeps a track of really well. I think there's a high score option in there.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure if there is, because I don't think there is in shoot 'em up construction kit.
I thought there was in yours. I sometimes remember I just got I never got a high score because I never lived long enough in the game to get a really good high score. It is a tough old game. But
did you get to the jeeps and the huts?
I definitely got to the huts, because I remember going, good Lord, the shadow on that thing's
Yeah, that's where the
outrageous.
graphics go a bit. The perspective goes a bit odd.
But you were learning. This was the first thing you made with that, I think, as a sort of permanent product, I think.
It was, yes.
And I think in that instance, because you could actually, and obviously you'll look at the way this was made in a moment, but you could have just used the graphics that came with the thing, but you didn't choose to do that, because there's ways you can create the sprites and you create the frames of animation, and the animation's actually pretty good on the helicopter. It's better than some of the other helicopters I've seen in other games. We'll make this game, because this is your game, we can make this game available as a download from the website, which is pretty exciting. Which we've got. Because in an ironic twist, there is a cracked version of this, which is cracked by the very demo group that I was a part of. I'm not responsible for that, by the way. It won't mean that did that.
There's actually more cracks on that CSDB.
There is, yeah.
Someone's +1'd it, and I think we need the +1 version.
So we can make this. We'll make it available, or links to those things. But it's worth a download just to see a game made with a really interesting product. Again, you're going to talk about that in a minute. But as far as helicopters, if I was going to be critical of Heli Squad, there's not much audio, because you couldn't do a lot of audio with the thingy. You could make sound effects and things, but so there's no music or anything like that in it. But what is in there is perfectly acceptable for what it is. It's very clearly influenced by the games you'd played. So I think there's probably a bit of Atari 2600 in there, and some of those River Raid kind of ideas, things like that.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But I think the ambition's there, and you pull it off, and you make a full game. At age 16 on the Commodore 64, that ain't bad going. Going on. You did it all yourself. I mean, it's not like you went off and you went to Bob the graphics guy down the road, and it would have been no good coming to me to it, because I'm crap at drawing anything, especially sprites.
Yeah,
I don't have the patience for it. I genuinely don't. It took me ages to draw logos for the bloody S-Express demo group, and even then I hated them. So you did a marvellous thing. I really like it, and I had a good blast on it today. I really enjoyed it, my time with it. So what's not to like? The thing is, you've not tried to, because you can make quite complex logic in the engine, can't you? You've kept your logic simple and just kept to what it is. And it genuinely does work as a good little shooter. So, and I think it's on Lemon 64, I think. So I'm sure I've seen a review of it somewhere.
Really? I'm not sure
Pretty
about
sure
that.
Anyway, that's something you can Google away there. But we'll make sure the game's available on the download, or links to the way you can get it from, because it is 80s game, so he's perfectly allowed to do that.
Yeah.
So it's because we generally don't do those kind of things for obvious reasons. But I think if you're rolling back the clock 34 years. And this is you in your early game designer hat on. And now, of course, it's a whole different ballgame with your teaching game design and everything else, and making your own games on mobile and all sorts of stuff, and Xbox and everything. So it's kind of incredible. But this is where it began, in that little game, and I think it's great. I really enjoyed it. I tell you what, it's better than some of the other crap. We're just looking at the lineup we've got here. Is it better than Captain America? Yes. Better than Thundercats? Yes. Better than Indiana Jones? Yes. Better than Yogi? Yes. And then I'm sorry, I'm not saying no, because that's not saying. You might be saying, well, that's not saying a lot, because those games are utter shite. But you know what? You were one person who just got hold of an engine and a kit to be able to do this and set about making that. And it's better than any of those things because, yes, the engine's the power, but the ideas are what you had and then the ability to put it together. So fair play to 16-year-old AD Mills. Because I think it's a good little thing to do. And you always had a knack for sprite animation because I remember you drawing all those eyes for that demo we made, the eyes of it, where you had all the little eyes dancing and animating, and you had one in a trampoline going up and down, and we're really cool. So you've always had a knack for sprite animation, so I like it.
Yeah.
But it was made with a very, very interesting piece of software, which I'm sure you can ably describe now. But your game, made with that piece of software, I thought it was, and I'm not just saying it because it's your game and it's you. I've always liked it because it's always been a good little thing to have in your back pocket, and it is good fun to play. So go and download it and go and experience AD's very first game.
Very first game.
It's better than my first game. So.
Actually, I did something on the Quill before then.
My first one was an adventure.
But technically, well, you just used the game engines that you had, didn't you? So yeah, but technically, as an arcade game.
My first one was basic on an Acorn Electron.
Oh, wow, okay.
So it was the 3 keys. We've mentioned it before, but it's nowhere near as and in the same realm as something like that you created with Heli Squad. So go download it and play it.
I wish it, it was a part of me wishes I still kind of had the sprite sheets and everything and things like because it's kind of strange, but
you could always do a remake.
I could do a remake. There's just a helicopter shooter, but it was based around Tiger Heli
remake for mobile remake.
I'll try. I'll see what I do. I can do it in Unity, I suppose. Yeah, so this was, I don't know, we'll discuss, I'll say a bit about Shoot Construction Kit. This was the second of the 3 gold medals. Obviously, it got the cover the other month. I think it was October when it got the sort of preview.
That's right.
And this is sensible software. So released through Outlaw Productions or something. So I'm not quite sure where this had come from. But it's John Hare and Chris Yates. And essentially what they've done is they've just given you the keys to the vertical scrolling shoot 'em up kingdom. And they've done it in a way that is quite incredible. Going back to it, it's so simple to use. So essentially what they've done, and what they also did, they gave you four games that they built in it to play as well. I can't remember. One of them was Slap and Tickle, which is based on Slap Fight. What were the other ones? I can't remember what they were. But basically, there's 4 games for you to play through. Slap and Tickle, variant of there's Outlaw, which is a Gunsmoke clone. There's Transputer Man, which is a Robotron game. And Celebrity Shoot 'em Up, a blaster containing sprites designed by many famous names in the industry. So they'd gone to pains to show you this. And actually, in the next few issues of Zap, John Hare has a regular column where he sort of talks through how to get the best out of this game engine, because essentially that's what this is. It's a game engine. It's a very focused game engine because it's about doing vertical scrolling shoot 'em ups. The clever thing about this was it wasn't just always scrolling. So you could do either one. So you could do full on constant scrolling shoot 'em ups. You could do bosses. So you could stop the levels at certain points and when bosses came on and do all that logic within it. But it also allowed you to do push levels. So you could do ones where you were working your way upwards a bit at a time. The logic for it was easy to get your head around. Essentially, you had a really, really intuitive sprite designer. That was a big on-screen sprite designer. You picked your 4 colors, because it was all medium res. So you had your 2 colors, your background color, and then each sprite had its own color. So you could do all that with 4 colors. You could, in the sprite editor, you can select sprites, you can edit sprites, you can edit colors, you can select color, you can mirror them, you could slide them, you could copy them. And that was useful when you're doing animation because you just copied, you drew it once, you copied it into the next one. And you had the memory bank to have, it was 128 sprites you could do. For backgrounds, you had a per character level, so you made your backgrounds out of blocks. I can't remember how many blocks you had, but it's quite a few. So each block you basically drew in characters. And I think each block was made up of 5x5 characters. So then, it was quite possible to do a real good series of different kind of blocks. And you can see that within the games that are they've made. And then you basically you just laid them out and you just made your level, as long as you could fit in memory, essentially. And then you had objects, enemies, your player, you gave your own logic, you said how many lives, whether you get an extra life at 10,000 or whatever, your speed, how often it's shot, the speed of the bullets. For the enemies, you could control them and make them follow paths. You could just have them spray. You could say what kind of angle that they shot in. So in Heli Squad, there's the gun emplacements which fire both down, bottom left, and bottom right, and so they could cause quite problems when they're firing quite regularly. You could design so as you've got to certain points, you'd put your enemies in, and you could have them move on different attack patterns and ways which you designed. And then at the end of all this, you do all this. There was also a little trick with the title screen as well. I think it was Shift and one of the buttons, which gave that effect, on Heli Squad, where it spells out Heli Squad, those big sort of colour raster bars. You could get that effect by holding shift and one of the keys. And I found that out by accident, but then you could spell big letters rather than just have it in text. So you could do all these things. The end, it was really powerful, really good. Yes, if you put too many sprites on screen, it will slow down. Simple as. You can see that in Heli Squad right near the beginning where I put too many sprites on them and not fixed it. But it is what it is. All this, you can edit the level. And then the beauty of this thing was that you could save this and export it, and it would run outside the engine. So that's what I did with Heli Squad. And then you could release that, and my friend sent it out and it came back. I remember it coming back 2 weeks later on a disc, cracked. It was so weird to see, with a trainer on it. I was like, someone trained it. I was like, oh my God, someone played it and trained it. Wow, it's amazing. Someone put infinite lives on it. And those are now, as we've said, there's 4 versions of it on CSDB. But it was, I could not get my head around assembler code programming and things like that. But this was a real in for making video games and making games. And so for someone like myself who was really wanted to make games, but just didn't have the brain to do assembler code. I can do C# and stuff now, and I've learned things like that. But back then, I just didn't have the time, the perseverance. I know you could do it, but it wasn't for me. This was a real godsend, and it absolutely 100% deserved that gold medal. I think this is an amazing piece of software, even now today, and it's still going strong, isn't it? I think there was Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit on the Amiga, was there? There was the Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit 2.
There was, yeah, on the ST, yeah.
And on the ST, there's still, I think every year or twice every year, they have a Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit challenge. There's one guy who's doing crazy things with it when you go look at what his games is making. I can't remember his name. You could also have 2-player modes. So this wasn't just a single player. You could do 2 players. So much was in this and so much that you could do. And it was so powerful and so simple and so easy. Hats off to John Hare and Chris Yates for this. That's just incredible piece of software, and was one of the best things. I bought this because I was like, I want this. So and on cassette, it was a single load. There it was, perfect. Can't fault it. What a piece of kit. Brilliant stuff. Do you have anything to add on it?
Only really that I agree with everything you said. I lacked the patience, which is odd. I lacked the patience to do all of because this is game creation from the creative side in. So all of the code and all the code behind stuff, I was quite into the code behind stuff and quite into doing that sort of stuff. But I never made a game with any of that. I did lots of demo effects and things like that, but a game was something that we never did. But this is really clever. This is such a clever bit of kit. This is a game engine before game engines were even a thing.
Sitting in 64K to allow you to do what it does is, I don't know how they did it.
It's incredible, really. I had a bit of a flirt with it, like everyone did, but I never made anything. Certainly never made anything like Heli Squad, anything like that. I think I made a couple of things move around, and I was like, eh. But it is ridiculously easy to use, really, and it just takes time and patience, which is the 2 things I lacked most of back then, and I lack them even more now in my older years. So I wasn't going to. I loaded it up and I had a look at it and I was like, I'm not going to do anything with this. And I looked at the games, and things like that. I obviously played your game and I was like, you know what, this was in the right hands. This tool is amazing. And then when I did a look to see how many shoot 'em up construction kit games are out there are loads.
Yeah, there really are.
There are. Apparently there was a whole wave of them being submitted to loads of companies after this. Where they were like, I'm going to shoot a look. And some of them are really good, including yours. So it does take you through those logical steps of how to create a good shoot 'em up, focusing on the things that make shoot 'em ups good. And so you don't have to worry about it because the engine does all the heavy lifting for you, which is exactly as it should be.
Yes.
Yes, I suppose they all had a kind of look, but it was a good look. It's not bad look. That slap fight derivative they made, it looks pretty good, and the other ones are completely different. You can do scrolling one-screen games with this. It's quite varied.
Yeah.
So I think a previously almost impossible thing and the voodoo really around creating games, suddenly the door was opened and there was this world, you can create games. It's not in the purview of scientists and coders and things. Look at this creative approach to making games. And I think for that alone, it is genuinely amazing. It was basically an offshoot of Palace that released it, by the way, which is the company that you mentioned at the start. I forget the name, but
Outlaw Games.
Outlaw, yeah, that's basically a Palace derivative. But
right.
Obviously, it's sensible all the way. Such a brilliant idea, and it's such an expression, really, of Chris Yates and John Hare's minds. We've spoken to John Hare, and not just for the podcast on many different occasions, but certainly for the podcast. And that insight into how he creates games and his iterative process, you can see how working with Chris Yates and Chris Yates' iterative processes, you can see how it led to this and how that then leads later to the kind of things they do on the Amiga and stuff. I think this is just a brilliant idea, and it is way, way, way ahead of its time. This is a game engine. You can make executable individual games of your own design. I think it's amazing. I think it's really, really amazing. And in 64K, I would defy anyone now to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, even the sound files for a game would be more than that by miles.
Yes.
So you wouldn't be able to do it, but you could. And then the good thing is still, even with an emulator, and even with a copy of Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit, even now you could load up an emulator, load it up, and you can still make a shoot 'em up game for the Commodore 64 that is passable if you take the time. Just shows you how much longevity there is in that. I never even came across the Amiga version, strangely enough, ever. Just never came across it. Probably because that wasn't something that got pirated to me, sadly to say.
I think by the time you get to the Amiga, you're gonna. I think it's one of those points, sort of thing, where the C64. And the thing I found, you could have your one-man band doing it. So you know you could do it all yourself, and you do all that. I think when you get to the Amiga, you need, even on something like this, you need a team. Yeah,
you do, because you're talking. You need actual drawing skills.
Yes,
when
exactly.
You've got that many colours and that sort of fidelity.
Yeah. Whereas it's just a 21 by 15 or whatever it is, the sprite size on the C64. I can't remember.
Quite small.
11. It's 21 by 11. I think it is. It's not that massive, so you can only do so much, and you've only got 4 colours, and 3 of them have to be constant throughout. Yeah. So you've got your light, your dark, and then you're in between.
Yeah.
So you usually go with white, black, and something else.
Amazing what could be done with those limitations, and you proved it yourself. You made a game on the Commodore 64, whichever route to do that. Nobody would look at them and go, "Oh, you made it with a game engine." So but nowadays that's permanent. That's how it's done.
Yeah, exactly.
The Unreal Engine exists for this exact purpose. It's a collection of game libraries and things, and Unity is a collection of libraries pre-built so you don't have to do that bit. This was doing it way before that, years before it. Incredible. It's incredible. It's an incredible thing, the Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit. I just wish it had reached me a bit better. But by this point, I tuned out. I was in, demos and then music kind of where it landed for me, but just amazing. Amazing.
I mean, don't underestimate. I mean, music especially, sort of thing. The amount of stuff you did with things like Optomed and stuff. Your interest just ran in a different direction. Yeah,
completely different. But I stand in awe that the fact that product is what it is. And I've found some really great links on Retro Gaming 64, which has got the entire tips section that you spoke about, all of that text from that Zap article by John Hare, and loads of tips. And there's also not just the tips and everything on there, but they've gathered all of the things from all the magazine tips and put them into one place. There's even get downloadable games there as well that the people have done with it. It's a nice little resource. So I'll if you do fancy having a go, and I would recommend that you do if you've got the time, you wouldn't go far wrong, because you're going to create something with very few bugs, if any. Yeah,
absolutely. If I do give one bit of advice before you start, is have a theme. Have a thing that you want to do. Pick a theme for your graphics, whatever. If you're going to do a space shooter, then pick a style of space shooter. If you're going to do it like I did, I did Heli Squad, and I was like, I knew Tiger Heli, things like that. So I knew I had helicopters, jeeps, gun turrets, tanks, planes, the rest. And I knew I wanted to do it sort of over jungle, and that was it. So it was easy enough to do. So not easy, but I had the theme that I wanted. And that would be the one bit of advice I give you, because if you just go in and going, I'll just make something, you won't.
Yeah, very true.
So, like any game, really, work out what you actually want to make first.
Yeah,
because you won't finish something that you just start from without an idea.
Go in with a plan.
Yes,
go in with a plan.
Indeed. There we go. That's it. That's our games this week. So what have we looked at? We've looked at quite a few. 12 this week.
12, yeah.
12 games. We have looked at Buggy Boy, which, all right.
Average arcade turned into an average game.
Yeah. Captain America. No.
Crap.
Captain America arse. That was crap. Thundercats. Just
no.
Change another game into something else. You're not going to end up with something that does the license justice.
Made me cough up a fur ball, that one.
Absolutely. Yeah, I did a massive dump in the litter tray for that one.
Yes, someone did.
did a huge lion-o. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which Temple of Arse.
Yeah.
Yogi Bear.
Yeah, no. Yogi Don't.
Yogi Don't, yeah. Action Force, no.
Action Farce.
Action Farce, yeah. Street Hassle, yeah.
One-dimensional.
Computer Scrabble, one-dimensional, yeah. It's a good game of Scrabble. You want to play Scrabble?
Yeah.
How to Be a Complete Bastard, one of the worst games we've played in a while.
Yeah, absolutely dreadful. Yeah, absolutely crap.
Yeah. Super Sprint, which was buggy conversion, lacked all the...
Ironically, in an episode where we've got Buggy Boy, this was buggier than Buggy Boy, and Buggy Boy wasn't buggy.
Yeah, true. Microball, budget
Micro
pinball.
boring. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Micro ball.
and, then finally the shoot 'em up construction kit and Heli Squad.
Yay.
There we go. So that's our games for this week. We've got more coming up next week. What have we got next week? I've lost the agenda. What have we done?
Nebulous is in there.
Yes, I've completely lost the agenda. You go. Have you got it open? Where's it gone?
We've got Nebulous. Yes, Prime Minister.
Oh,
Looking
God.
forward to that.
Have we?
Implosion, Discovery, X-15, Alpha Mission, and Zigzag.
X-15 Alpha Mission. That sounds like a CC Sputnik album.
Sounds to me like it's got vectors involved in it. When everything titles like that makes me think vector games.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure. Maniac Mansion, of course, which, well, that's a biggie, that one, I think. And it's not even a gold medal. Are you having a laugh, Zap? Are you having a laugh? Earth Orbit Stations. Ooh, that's expensive.
Yeah.
17 quid. A Hyperblob. Pirates in Hyperspace. I'm dreading that. Sunburst. And Bangkok Nights.
And then that's it, innit? That's us done for the year.
That is literally December done. That's it.
That's
Another
it.
year, a whole year. The bally lot.
And then the following week, we'll see the 87 Bread Bin Awards.
It will. Yes, my gosh. That's epic
What a
that
year
will
it's
be.
been. What a year it has been. But yeah, so stick with us. We've also got a couple of crap burts for next week as well. Actually, more than three crap burts. One's going to be right up your alley.
Oh, God.
I know for a fact. That's it for this week. As ever, if you wish to support the podcast in a cashola-style manner, then we have our Patreon running at patreon.com/zapped to the past, where for just a single £1, which probably gets cheaper every week due to the pound crashing even further recently.
Yeah.
So it's possibly, I don't know, it's probably about less than a Mars bar wherever you are. If you're in Britain, you can support us for that, and that gets you at the entry level, and that's very nice. We appreciate that. If you want to the full fat Patreon experience, that's £4.50 or your equivalent. That gets you bonus episodes. We've got some plans for some stuff along those lines coming up. It also gets you access to our private Discord server, and it also gets you full interviews that we've done, access to them, and it also gets you the episodes early. They release on a Friday, so you can have them before the weekend should you wish them, and they're ad-free as well. So if you don't like the ads, then, which you should do because the ads are cool, but if you don't, and some people don't, we get it, then you get them ad-free, and there you go. So that's about it. If you can help out with that, also rate, review, whatever on iTunes
share.
and all that thing. Share. Tell people if you like us. We've seen some very nice feedback on Twitter this week. People going for country walks, listening to us, and that's always very nice to see. Pondering the problems of the sharks in Canada. That was brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. And it really made me want an ice pop.
Yeah.
Why don't I have an ice pop?
Yeah, he was having a cola one, wasn't he?
Yeah, instantly made me want a cola ice pop. In fact, I might have to go and find some freeze pops from somewhere and have one of them.
That was, for anyone who's wondering, that was Mr. Richard Horn on Twitter who tweeted that. So very good to see that. Thank you, Richard.
Greatly appreciated. And
yeah, hugely.
Let me know where you get those freeze pops from.
Yeah, absolutely. It looked like a lovely walk as well, wherever you were going. It looked very, very nice.
Exactly.
I'm just looking at the picture now. Very nice.
It's very nice.
Anyway, on that note, I think we're done. So you got anything more you want to add?
No, I'm just going to find where the nearest Heron is and go and see if they've got any freeze pops. But other than that,
probably be closed, I think, now.
Well, yeah, it won't be now. I mean, I'm not going to Tesco. No, I refuse. I don't like Tesco anymore.
Okay.
Other supermarkets are available.
They are available to everybody. They really are. So on that note, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Raddings.
You've been listening to Zapped to the Past, and we will round up 1987 next week. See you then. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.